What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, guys, so we're going to cover Spawn number 26 for today's Spawn Sunday video. Now, when it comes to Spawn number 26, it's actually more of a one-shot story where we do see Spawn realize that he had to learn a valuable lesson of how to be a hero, or what is a hero. But at the same time though, we also kind of find out that Malebolgia loves the idea of Spawn being a hero. And the reason why, because with Spawn being a hero, Spawn is actually helping Malebolgia build up his army of Hellspawns to attack Heaven down the road. And so that is the moment where we actually do pick up with a character known as Fred. Now, when it comes to Fred, you have Fred right now trying to fight against a court case. And what I mean by that is, right now Fred is trying to fight to keep his daughter with him. And the reason why, because when it comes to his stepdaughter, she was actually given to him and his wife in the whole foster care system. But the problem is though, he lost his wife. His wife died. But after her death, he also lost his job and he began to fall apart. And so because of that, you had the court come in and say, listen, we gave you her to basically live with you because we felt like you and your wife could take care of her. But after your wife died, you're now showing us signs that you are unable to actually take care of her. And so it's better for her to go ahead and get removed and live somewhere else. And so of course they say, I'm sorry, you're going to lose your daughter. Now we're going to use Fred as a way to see Spawn actually learn a valuable lesson about being a hero. And so that is the moment where we actually do pick up with Malebolgia. Now, when it comes to Malebolgia, you have to remember that he is a devil, not the devil, a devil. And what I mean by that is there are many devils in hell, and Malebolgia is just one of the devils. Now, with that being said, you do have Malebolgia right now technically watching over Spawn. Because remember, when it comes to Malebolgia, he's right now trying to build an army of Hellspawns as a way to use it against, of course, the forces of Heaven. And so right now, he's watching over Spawn. And the reason why, because when it comes to Spawns on Earth, they are technically destined to become high-ranking officers in the army of Malebolgia. And so right now, Al Simmons is technically destined to become a high-ranking officer. And so right now, it's Malebolgia watching over Spawn to see how is he going right now on Earth. And so that is the moment where we actually do jump over to Spawn. Now, when we do jump over to Spawn, it's him right now being confronted by the Count. Now, we actually seen the Count in earlier issues when it comes to Spawn. And matter of fact, he first appeared in Spawn number 9 when Spawn fought against Angela. Now, with that being said, this is the Count right now coming to Spawn and saying, hey man, listen. Honestly, I think it's about time for you to try to learn more about who you are or what you are and why you are so special and why all these different things keep happening to you. Now, you do have the Count say it all basically started when you accepted the offer from the devil, not the devil, a devil. Because remember, when he came to Spawn, when he died, he was confronted by Malebolgia. And of course, he asked Malebolgia to send him back to Earth so that he'll be able to be with Wanda. Now, Malebolgia did that, but of course it was a deal, technically saying, yes, I'll send you back to Earth, but you are going to become my Hellspawn. Now, with that being said though, you didn't have the Count say, listen, you are a Hellspawn, and technically you are supposed to be used as a tool by the devil or Malebolgia as a way to attack the forces of Heaven. And sooner or later, they're going to basically use you as a way to attack the forces of Heaven. But technically, you're supposed to become a high-ranking officer in the army of Malebolgia. Now we do jump over to Malebolgia. Now when we do jump over to Malebolgia, you do have Malebolgia technically tell us that even though he knows that Spawn is not really a bad person, he's really hoping that the idea of the darkness inside of Spawn will come out. And when that darkness come out, it will take over Spawn, and then Spawn will become a true evil person. Something that Malebolgia really wants to happen to Spawn. Because again, when it comes to Al Simmons, he is technically destined to become a high-ranking officer in the army of Malbolgia. Now, when it comes to Malbolgia, he also loves the idea of Spawn being a hero. Now, the reason why Malbolgia loves that will be explained later on in this video. But right now, it is Malbolgia realizing that Spawn is looking for answers. Now, yes, he's going to get some answers, but of course, when he does get those answers, it's going to lead to more questions down the road. Now, when we do jump back over to Spawn and also the Count, that is the moment where you do have one of the homeless guys coming over to Spawn to actually talk to him about the idea of Spawn helping out Fred. And remember, we saw Fred earlier in this book, and when it comes to Fred just lost his daughter. And so right now, this is Fred coming to Spawn and saying, hey man, listen, I heard great things about you. I also heard that you are able to actually help me with different problems. And right now I have a particular problem. I lost my daughter. Now remember, in our last video, this is a Spawn right now who's not trying to actually help anyone out right now. And the reason why, because he told himself, every time I try to help someone, I basically get involved in some crazy mess. But on top of that, it's getting too close to home, aka Terry and Wanda. Because remember, he's right now back on Earth because of Wanda, the woman he loves. Now, even though she had remarried his best friend, he still cares a lot for them. And so right now, it's Spawn saying, I'm not trying to get any more mess before they actually get hurt. And so unfortunately, I'm not trying to help anybody at all. But on top of that, is Spawn saying the homeless people in this area are beginning to rely on me too much. And so with that being said, you have Spawn tell Fred no. Now, right after Spawn did that, you didn't have the Count say, no, they're not getting cocky or just relying on you. You gave them hope. And that right there, Spawn, is actually very, very important. But then we jump back over to Malbolgia. Now, when we do jump back over to Malbolgia, this is Malbolgia right now still watching over Spawn. But this is Malbolgia telling us, the readers, that right now, he's loved what he's seeing right now when it comes to Spawn. And what I mean by that is, even though Spawn right now is a hero and technically taking out bad guys, when he does kill off the bad guys, those souls go to one particular area, hell, and some of those souls go over to the 8th area of hell, which belongs to Malbolgia. And so Malbolgia is saying, yes, Spawn, be a hero, because when you kill those guys off, their souls become mine. And with that, they join my army of hell spawns to be used as a way to fight against the forces of hell. And so technically right now, even though Spawn is right now being a hero, he's still helping out Malbolgia. Now, something else to mention is that once Spawn time is up on Earth, he'll go back down to hell and be with Malbolgia. And so technically right now, Spawn is getting trained, but at the same time is giving Malbolgia a bigger army to use. But that is the moment where we actually do see Spawn go to heaven. Yes, you heard that right. Spawn does go to heaven. And the reason why he was actually transported over to heaven was because of one particular character known as Gabrielle. Now, when it comes to Gabrielle, she's right now technically trying to do something big to another character known as Angela. And matter of fact, Angela will have a mini-series right after this book right here. Unfortunately, we cannot cover it. And the reason why, because I cannot find any copies at all. But on top of that, the reason why, because remember, after a certain period of time, Marvel was able to actually gain the rights of Angela. And so unfortunately, when it comes to Image Comics, they really cannot reprint books of Angela because the rights that belong to Marvel now. Now, with that being said, this is technically right now Gabriella trying to set up Angela. And what I mean by that is the reason why she brought Spawn over here, because she knows when it comes to Angela's last big battle, it was against Spawn. but then she disappeared and left behind her lance. Now we saw what happened to Spawn when he touched that lance. He was actually teleported somewhere else. But thing is though, when he came back to Earth, the lance was gone. And so right now it seems that Gabrielle wants the lance, but we have no idea why. Now, once you have Spawn tell her, hey, listen, I have no idea where the lance went to, she said, thank you for your help, and then sent him back down to Earth. And so we do jump over to Malbolgia one last time for this video. Now, when we do, it's technically right now Malbolgia very excited about the idea that now Heaven is involved. And what I mean by that is, with Heaven right now pulling Spawn, is Spawn right now wanting to ask more questions about Hell or Heaven. And when it comes to Malbolgia, he feels like when it comes to Spawn, when he goes around looking for answers, he usually gets in more trouble. And with him getting in more trouble, that means two things. One, his time limit gonna run out, but on top of that, he'll send more people to hell for me to use in my army of hell spawns. And so right now, it's Malbolgia saying, I'm just winning, and Spawn right now is actually losing. And so that is the moment where we actually do jump over to Spawn. Now, when we do, it's Spawn right now technically telling a story to the homeless people that he has been protecting. Now, of course, the story he's telling right now is how he actually helped out Violator in the Violator miniseries that we did not cover. Now, with that being said though, as he tells this story, he realized that the homeless people don't care. And the reason why, because right now, they are actually very upset with him. And the reason why they're mad at him right now, because Spawn did not help out Fred. Because when they hand over a newspaper for Spawn to read, Spawn realized what happened to Fred. Fred committed suicide. He killed himself because he lost his wife and then he lost his daughter. And he went to Spawn asking for help, but unfortunately, he did not help. And so because of that, Fred killed himself. And so this is actually what's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, guys, so we are going to continue our coverage over Spawn for Spawn Sundays, where we actually do pick up right now with another Spawn Batman crossover. And this is called Batman and Spawn War Games. Now, this is actually a pretty good crossover. And matter of fact, I like this crossover more than the other crossover because honestly, Batman acts normal in this one rather than the other one. Now, with that being said, this one is another story where it's the two characters coming together but meeting for the first time. And the reason why I'm saying that because in the last story, the last time Spawn met Batman, that was Dark Knight Returns Batman, a younger version of Dark Knight Returns Batman. This one right here is kind of telling us that this is the main DC Universe Batman meeting Spawn for the first time. Now, with that being said, this crossover right here is technically not referenced ever again in Spawn comics like the first one was, because in the first one, we saw it be referenced in later stories right after covering that story. But this one, you might see a couple here and there, but honestly, not that much. But this one is way better than the first crossover. So here is Batman and Spawn War Games #1. And so to begin today's storyline, we actually do pick up right now in the year 1587, where we actually do pick up in Roanoke Island. Now, when it comes to Roanoke Island, this was one of the first settlements for America, where Great Britain began the process of coming over to America. Now, with that being said, at first, they did send a small number of people to build a settlement here. Now, once that number had grew to 100 people, they began the process of sending word back home to begin the process of sending more people over here to grow the settlement. But here comes the big problem though, because when they came back 3 years later with more people, well, the original group had all died or disappeared, and no one knew what exactly happened to them, except when they arrived into the actual settlement, they found a bunch of flames just recently put out, but one thing was written on top of a tree, so high up that the new settlers could not actually touch it, but it did say something very important. Croatoan. And that right there is actually going to be very important for this entire storyline. Now, we also kind of find out that apparently some kind of pentagram was actually cut into the ground around this settlement to say something big is going to open up when it comes to this area in the far future. And matter of fact, that is when we jump into the present day and we kind of find out that Gotham City in this storyline was technically built on top of Roanoke Island. But then we actually pick up with Bruce Wayne right now being Matches Malone. Now, the reason why he's calling himself Matches Malone is because it's one of the aliases he used when he's undercover, especially when it comes to gangsters in Gotham City or mobsters. Now, with that being said, though, he's right now actually talking to a certain guy. And the reason why, because right now Bruce Wayne is looking for a guy known as Virgil Dare. Now, we have no idea at first why he wants Virgil Dare. But then we kind of find out that apparently Bruce Wayne, as Batman, has stopped a huge shipment at the docks that was holding a bunch of explosives. And of course, those explosives were technically under the name Virgil Dare. And so right now, it's Batman saying that I believe that Virgil Dare is working for someone in Gotham City that was actually plotting to use the bombs as a way to blow up a huge area of Gotham. And so right now, it's Batman saying, I have to find Virgil Dare, but also find the people that he is actually working for to hopefully stop them and save the day. But then we jump over to Spawn. Now, when we jump over to Spawn, it's Spawn right now arriving in Gotham. Now, this is Spawn right now technically saying that something in Gotham drew him here. That technically he left New York City to come over to Gotham to look for something very important. But the question is right now, what? Because this is still Spawn right now trying to piece together his memories. And so right now, something here in Gotham is very special to him that he has to know about. And this begins the process of us right now seeing Batman going after Virgil and trying to follow him to see who in the world does Virgil actually work for. Now, this begins the process of where the book does jump back and forth between Spawn and Batman. So every single page is going to jump back over to a different character. And so right now for this page, it's just Batman right now telling Virgil to hopefully see where in the world Virgil is actually going to learn who Virgil is actually working for. And so that is the moment where we do see both characters actually arrived to Gotham Tower. Now, Gotham Tower was actually built by a guy known as Simon Vesper. Now, Simon is actually dead, but he is going to be the main bad guy of this book. Now, with that being said, though, the reason why Batman's here right now because Batman was following Virgil. And so right now, it's Batman saying, I have to make sure that when it comes to Virgil, he is not going to try to blow anything up. Now, the reason why Spawn is here because when it comes to Spawn, he actually did kill off Simon Vesper. And the reason why, because remember, Spawn was a mercenary before he became Spawn, before he died and became Spawn. And so in that life, he did kill a lot of people. And so technically he was hired to go after Simon Vesper because Simon was a bad dude. Either way, when it comes to Spawn, he was hired to go after Simon and kill him off, which Spawn did. And that right there is Spawn connection to Gotham Tower. But with that connection, it's going to lead into so many more things happening in this storyline. But shifting our focus back over to Batman, you have Batman actually go into Gotham Tower. Now, while Batman is going into Gotham Tower, we come to find out that the night Simon was killed off by Spawn, Batman was there as well. The problem was, though, when Batman tried to find the killer, which was Spawn, unfortunately, he was unable to actually find Spawn there because Al was able to get away before Batman could find him because Al was a professional mercenary. Now, with that being said, once you have Batman get inside Gotham Tower, of course, he does begin the process of fighting against the guards that are technically right now working for Virgil. And so it is kind of cool to see Batman fight against some guys, But once the fighting is done, that is the moment where you actually have Virgil tell Batman he got everything wrong. That technically right now, when it comes to Virgil, what they're doing right now is making sure this building actually does open up. Because after Simon had died, he had a 6-year plan. At the end of that plan, he wanted to make sure the building still opened up to the public. And so right now it seems like all the explosives that Batman heard that Virgil was grabbing could be used for fireworks for the big opening day. And so you do have Batman leave, but at the same time, it's Batman wondering, what if Virgil is actually lying to me? Now, to make matters even worse, we actually do jump over to Potter's Field. Now, Potter's Field is actually a cemetery in Gotham City. And the reason why we're focusing on this cemetery, because out of nowhere, you do have a body come out of the ground. And that body begins to change back into a regular human form. Now, here's the thing. This is actually Simon Vesper coming back to life at the tail end of his 6-year plan, which means that right now everything is about to pop off very soon. And of course, with Simon being back in Gotham City, word gets out very quickly. Now, here's the thing. The world did figure that Simon was dead, but unfortunately, they never got confirmation. And what I mean by that is, when it came to Simon, his head was shot off clean by Spawn, or Al Simmons, at that point in time. And so with his head being completely destroyed, the police was unable to say or get confirmation that that was actually Simon Vesper's body. And so right now they're kind of like, oh, that wasn't your body, which means that you're alive again, and this is great. Now, Batman knows that Simon should be dead because he was there when Simon died, but at the same time, so does Spawn. Spawn also knows that Simon should be dead, which means that right now, something big is about to happen, especially for Spawn, because he's like, listen, I watched him die. If he's alive again, that means right now, he's being controlled by some kind of demonic being. And we then shift our focus onto Simon. Now, when we do, this is Simon right now going back over to Gotham Tower. Now, when he does arrive, Virgil, the guy he hired to follow his 6-year plan, is very happy to see his boss. Unfortunately, Virgil is killed off by Simon. And then you have Simon use Virgil's blood as a way to draw a pentagram in the tower to show us that something demonic is coming very soon to Gotham. And when it does, we can say right now that Simon is the source of that demonic thing coming to Gotham. And right after you have Simon leave Arkham Tower, well, then you have Batman arrive in Arkham Tower. And when he does, he finds the dead body of Virgil. But on top of that, he does see the pentagram that was drawn in Virgil's blood on the ground and wondering what in the world is happening right now. Now, for Batman, he's kind of like, listen, this has to be demonic. This right here has to be cult-like. And with that being said, I have to get this figured out right now to prevent anything else bad happening in Gotham City. But Batman right now is very, very concerned about what could happen in his own city at the moment. Now, while you have Batman leave Gotham Tower hoping to find more clues somewhere else, well, unfortunately, that is the moment where we come to find out Spawn sees Batman and believes that Batman is evil. Now, the reason why Spawn believes that, because when it comes to Spawn, when he does arrive to Gotham Tower, the only thing he does sense is pure evil. And of course, he sees Batman right now just leaving Gotham Tower. And so he believes that Batman right now could be that pure evil that he was actually sensing. Now, on top of that, when it comes to Spawn, he feels like Batman is the reason why he's here right now in Gotham City. Because right now, this could be another test from hell, another test from Malbolgia. And so you do have Spawn begin the process of fighting against Batman. Now, at first, Spawn is able to actually beat down on Batman. I mean, I feel so bad for the dude because Batman's getting his butt kicked. But then out of nowhere, when it comes to the powers of Spawn, his powers begin to disappear. And so because of that, he's no longer able to actually defeat Batman. Instead, it's now Batman being able to actually take down Spawn. And once you have Batman being able to actually take out Spawn, it's Batman saying, you know what? Because I defeated you now, maybe we can sit here and actually have a legit conversation at the moment. And once the fighting is all done, you then have Batman and Spawn introduce each other to the other person. Now, once that is done right there, you then have both characters realize that technically they're on the same side. That right now they're trying to figure out what in the world is going on when it comes to Simon. Now, when it comes to the characters actually introducing each other, you do have Batman say, I'm Batman. When it comes to Al, he says, just call me Al. He does not tell Batman to call him Spawn. Either way, you do have the two characters now working together to figure out what in the world is going on when it comes to Simon. And speaking of Simon, we do see him right now getting a phone call from two guards who are technically at the moment loading up a truck full of explosives that belong to Simon. Now, at first, Simon did tell these guards that these explosives are going to be used as a way to kind of do some impressive fireworks show when Gotham Tower opens up. And the fireworks are going to come from different buildings and different areas of Gotham City. The problem is though, the guards realize that when it comes to Simon, he has way too much explosives, meaning that technically if these things go off in the different buildings, those buildings are going to catch on fire. But when it comes to Simon, he tells the guards, don't worry, I have everything under control. In reality, he doesn't. He's lying. Now, with that being said, we come to find out that right now Simon is trying to deliver 100,000 souls so that he'll be able to actually get a corner in hell, which means that right now he could be working for Malbolgia, or he's trying to get up to Malbolgia's level in hell, because Malbolgia is just a devil in hell. There are many devils in hell. And so right now it seems like Simon is trying to become the next devil in hell as well. But then we jump over to Batman and Spawn, and right now you have the two characters working together. Now Batman realized that when it comes to Simon did buy 5 different locations in Gotham City, but the question is right now why? Now Batman kind of realized that there has to be some kind of connection between the buildings and also the pentagram he found in Gotham Tower that was drawn with Virgil's blood. Now you do have Batman also say that there was another word that was written in the blood of Virgil, and that was Croatoan. Now the last time that word was ever used in the history of Gotham was when Gotham was Roanoke Island. And so right now it's Batman saying, I'm wondering why in the world this word is reappearing so many years later in Gotham City. What in the world is about to go down? And that is the moment where you actually have Simon's plan go into effect. And what I mean by that is you do have the process of different areas in Gotham beginning to have blackouts left and right. Power being lost all over Gotham except certain areas. And of course, the areas right now that are light up, they basically form some kind of pentagram in Gotham City. And so it seems like right now, this is Simon saying, here comes my big plan. And right now, I'm about to bring hell on earth for Gotham City. And when we do jump over to Simon, it's him right now technically having a party in Gotham Tower. Now here's the thing, Gotham Tower stands right in the middle of the pentagram, but on top of that, it is actually the only building right now lit up. Everything else is in the blackout area. Now here's the thing, the people in the party right now, they have no idea what is actually happening. But here is another thing though, because you didn't have Simon say he's trying to bring in the new age of Gotham City, a new beginning for Gotham City. And that is the moment where we do jump over to the cemetery we were at earlier, where you do have more and more dead bodies begin the process of coming out of the ground and walking in Gotham like zombies. And it seems like right now they're about to take over the city. And this is right now Simon's master plan coming into effect. But then we jump over to Spawn and Batman. Now, when we do, it's Batman and Spawn realizing right now that Simon is attacking Gotham City. And so you do have the two characters go their separate ways, where you have Batman actually go after Simon, where you have Spawn stay behind. And the reason why, because Spawn realized that when it comes to the generators, he feels a whole lot of evil coming from them. He's kind of like, you know what? Let me go ahead and check out these generators, because right now they're the only thing powered on right now. And of course, they're powering on Gotham Tower. And so those things could be very important to what Simon is trying to do to Gotham City. And with this blackout now happening in Gotham, of course, you now have the public freaking out. And of course, it makes sense because right now they're wondering what in the world is happening. And so the GCPD are getting so many different calls about different things happening in Gotham City. Now, at first, it seems like most people are complaining about the blackout. But as we go through the calls, we kind of find out some people are being assaulted in the dark now. It's complete chaos in Gotham City. And right now, you have James Gordon wondering if Batman can save the day. And then we see Batman arrive to Gotham Tower. Now, when Batman does arrive to Gotham Tower, it's Batman right now going after Simon. Now, let me tell you guys, it may look like that Simon is weak and that Batman should be able to handle Simon, but you're going to find out very quickly that Simon is not weak. And Batman is about to get his butt kicked left and right by Simon. It's Batman right now going to need the help of Spawn very soon. But then we jump over to Spawn. Now, when we do, it's Spawn right now realizing what Simon is trying to do. That at the moment, it's Simon right now trying to open a gate to hell in Gotham City. And so, of course, Spawn realized that is what Simon is trying to do, to deliver a bunch of souls into hell, but also bring hell on Earth. And so you do have Spawn use his Spawn powers as a way to close the pentagram to make sure nothing even bad happens in Gotham City. But now he must go help Batman fight against Simon, because Simon is not just your regular guy. Of course, he's some kind of demonic being. Because when we do jump over to Batman, you do have Batman right now trying his best to fight against, of course, Simon. The problem is, though, Simon is just too strong. And the reason why, because Simon is some kind of demon. And right now, it's Batman getting his butt whooped by this demon. Unfortunately, Batman does not stand a chance against this guy at all. And so right now, you have Simon just giving Batman one heck of a beatdown. Now, that is the moment where you do have Simon say, what he is trying to do is to deliver a bunch of souls to Malbolgia for the huge war between heaven and hell. And so, of course, that is why he is trying to open up a gate into hell when it comes to Gotham City, to deliver 100,000 souls to basically build up the army of Malbolgia. And once you have Spawn arrive to fight against this demon, we kind of find out that this demon's real name is Croatoan. And honestly, it makes sense now, because when it comes to the demon, every single time he did something, he would write his name somewhere so that people will know it was him who did this particular thing. Now, with that being said, though, you didn't have Spawn try to fight against, of course, Croatoan. Now, here's the big thing, because Croatoan says he planned all of this 6 years ago. And matter of fact, he knew that Al Simmons would become Spawn down the road. But he also used Hal as a way, he used Al as a way to kill off Simon 6 years ago. so that he'll be able to use Simon's body right here in the present day to complete his master plan, to open up a gate of hell into Gotham City. Now, you do have Spawn try his best to exactly stop, of course, Croatoan, but unfortunately this is a very powerful demon. Now, this is where you kind of tell that DC and Image were trying to wrap this up very quickly, and the reason why, because while Spawn is losing, you didn't have Batman throw some kind of grenades to throw Croatoan off balance just long enough to allow Spawn to exactly defeat Croatoan just like that. And once he does that, the story's done. What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, guys, so we are going to continue our coverage over Spawn for Spawn Sundays, where we actually do pick up with Spawn number 27. Now, when it comes to Spawn number 27, it's all about the idea of a new character coming after Spawn. Now, when it comes to this new character, this character right here truly believes that is doing the Lord work, God's work, by going out into the world and hunting down people who would disagree or work against the power of the Lord. And so this guy truly believes that God is right now guiding him in the right direction to take down bad people or evil things that are on the planet Earth. And once this character is able to take care of different problems for God, then God will give him more powers, or God will let him inside his empire or his temple, or technically heaven. And so with that being said, this is Spawn number 27, and Spawn going up against a character known as Cursed. And so when we get into the first few pages of Spawn number 27, we actually do pick up right now with our new character known as Curse. Now, when it comes to Curse, we don't get a chance to see him at first, but at the end of the section we do. Now, when it comes to Curse, he is technically right now going over to New York. And the reason why he is going to New York is, of course, for Spawn. Now, this is not him hunting down Spawn because Spawn could be evil. No, instead, this is him right now going to New York to actually test Spawn, because right now when it comes to Curse, he truly believes that Spawn is the chosen one from God. Like, technically, God has chosen Spawn to basically do God's work on the planet. And so right now it's Curse saying, let me go to New York and actually test out Spawn to make sure that Spawn is the chosen one for my God, for my Lord. And so, of course, he does fly over to New York. Now, when he does arrive in New York, of course, he is confronted by so many different problems in New York. So homeless, drugs, and of course, sex workers. But he does ignore all of them. And he says, listen, I'll pray for them and for their sins. But I came here in New York for one mission, to actually test out Spawn, to make sure he is the chosen one from my Lord. And so then we jump over to Spawn. Now, when we do pick up with Spawn, it's him right now technically grieving. Now, the reason why he is grieving, because the death of his close friend Bobby. Bobby was also a homeless person that was staying in the area that Spawn stays in with the rest of the homeless people. Now, the reason why Bobby is dead, because Youngbloods, in another book we did not cover, came after Spawn and technically end up killing Bobby. Now, of course, for Spawn, he feels very sad. And the reason why, because to him, Bobby died because the Youngbloods were technically coming after Spawn. And so right now, it's Spawn saying, if the Youngbloods were not looking for me, and matter of fact, if I had stayed away from you guys, Bobby would not be dead right now. Now, here comes the big problem though, because you do have Spawn use his demonic powers as a way to bring Bobby back to life. Now, we already know, usually when it comes to magic, but on top of that, magic, when you use it to bring someone back to life, there is going to be a big price for that. And so, of course, right now, the question is, what is going to be that price? Now, that is also the moment you have Spawn say that he does not feel so good. And so with that being said, it seems like the price is already affecting Spawn right now. Then here comes the problem for Spawn, because while Spawn is weakened for resurrecting Bobby, well, that is the moment where you have Spawn actually be attacked by no other than the Curse. He came from behind and actually blast Spawn right through his chest. So now, of course, usually most heroes would be dead. We already know that this is Spawn. He is not dead. Matter of fact, we have seen it so many times. We already know that sooner or later, he is going to get right back up again and fight against Curse. Now for Curse, he truly believed that he had won, because right now Spawn is laying dead. But on top of that, you have Curse say Spawn is not the chosen one, because if he was the chosen one, he would not be that easy to defeat if he was chosen by God. And so, of course, you have Curse leave, and of course, you do have the rest of the homeless people wondering what in the world to do when it comes to Spawn. They have to move him somewhere else before someone sees a dead body in their area. Now, on top of that, we kind of find out that some of the homeless people are actually working for Curse, and apparently they were sharing information about Spawn over to him. Either way, the ones who are with Curse, they also leave with Curse, but the rest stay with Spawn to hopefully wake him back up. But then we have to jump over to Wanda and Terry. Now remember, when it comes to Wanda, Wanda is the ex-wife of Al Simmons, aka Spawn, before he had died. And when it comes to Terry, Terry is the old best friend of Spawn before he had died. Now with that being said, the two characters did get married a couple years after Spawn had died. Now with that being said, you do have the two characters right now working together to figure out why in the world was CIA and also the Mafia coming after Terry. Now we know why, because Jason Wynn was trying to use Terry as a scapegoat. But for right now, our two characters, they have no idea why in the world he was technically being targeted by the CIA and the Mafia. Either way, you have Terry tell Wanda that he was able to find a whole bunch of folders. And right now, him and her are going to go through those folders to hopefully find some kind of information that could actually help them figure out why he was targeted. But the first person they believe who could be involved is, of course, Jason Wynn. But then we jump over to Curse, and when we do jump over to Curse, it's him right now technically giving a sermon. Now, when it comes to his sermon, it's actually really him more of telling the people around him his actual origin story, where we do learn that at a very young age, he was always praying to the Lord. But the problem was, though, the Lord was not answering his prayers. And so what he did was he realized that maybe the reason why the Lord is not answering his prayers because he has not done a sacrifice to show the Lord that he was very serious into doing God's work. And so that is the moment where you actually have Curse say he cut his own eye out, he scratched his face, and he also cut off one of his arms as a way to show the Lord that he was very serious in doing God's work. Now, of course, God still did not answer him. Now, when it came to the doctor told his parents that he's doing all of this for attention, but not realizing that this man truly believes that what he was doing to his body was a way to get his prayers answered. Now, of course, Curse said he did follow his parents' rule and try to live the life they wanted to have him live. And that means that he went to college, got a degree, and got all the money. But once he got all the money, he then built himself a brand new body, the one we're seeing right now, where he believed that with this new body and maybe going out there and doing God's work, sooner or later, God would recognize him and finally answer his prayers. And so that is the moment where you do have Spawn come right back for round 2 against Curse, but this time to actually make it a fair battle. Because last time when it came to Curse, when he took out Spawn, he did it behind Spawn's back when Spawn was not looking. And so now Spawn's saying, 1, you should make sure your target is always dead, but 2, you are a punk for trying to kill me behind my back and not actually trying to fight me head on like most men do. And so, of course, it does lead into an actual battle between the two characters. Now, with that being said, the battle does kind of lead into a debate between beliefs, because when it comes to Curse, remember, he truly believes in God. But at the same time, though, for Spawn, even though he met a devil and also angels as well, Spawn is still kind of hesitant to say that God is actually real. And so, of course, when the two are fighting against one another, their beliefs are right now bouncing off each other. But their battle does go on for a few pages. But then we have to jump back over to Wanda and of course also Terry. Now when we do, this is actually Wanda and Terry still looking over the folders that Terry had brought home from his office. Now with that being said, it's also Terry and Wanda realizing that when it comes to all the different folders, they're not finding a lot of different kind of information, but they are finding one name that keeps popping up, Jason Wynn. Now that right there is actually very important, and the reason why, because when it comes to Jason Wynn, he was the guy that got Al Simmons killed. Now Terry has no idea. Now Al somewhat does know that now, but at the very beginning of this series, Al had no idea that his own boss was the reason why he died. But right now it seems like Terry was technically being a scapegoat for Jason Wynn, which honestly we already knew that. Because remember, when it came to Spawn selling a bunch of weapons to take out Overkill, those weapons were supposed to be under Jason Wynn's watch. And of course, when those weapons had disappeared, Jason Wynn got in trouble and tried to say it was Terry. Now of course that did backfire. And so right now is Terry saying, we should look more into Jason Wynn. Now on top of that, it's also Terry wondering if he does know Spawn. Now honestly he does, but Terry has not figured out yet that Spawn is actually Al Simmons. And so right now it's Wanda and Terry saying they should work together to figure out who is the Spawn character and why was he trying to protect Terry so bad in the earlier storyline. Honestly, the book kind of ends on a very high note where we actually do see Spawn still fighting against Curse, but the book actually ends on that note right there, with Spawn just beating down on Curse, but being so mad at the idea that Curse is coming after him when Spawn is at his lowest point right now in his life. And so with that being said, this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, I'll see y'all next time. Later. What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. Okay guys, so we're going to do Spawn again for Spawn Sundays, and we pick up with Spawn number 28. Yes guys, we do have another one-shot story. Guys, do not worry. Sooner or later, we're going to have one of those big epic stories, but I want to make sure we cover everything we need when it comes to Spawn. Now, with that being said, when it comes to Spawn number 28, this is the book where you actually have Wanda find Spawn. And remember, Wanda is the ex-wife of Spawn, because technically, right after he died, she got remarried to, of course, his best friend. But the thing is, though, the last time she saw Spawn, he was in a different form, that his powers made him look like he was some Caucasian dude. And so she had no idea who he was. But now she's wondering who Spawn is, because this guy has been saving her husband, Terry, who of course is Al Simmons' old best friend, multiple times, especially the last time when it came to Overkill. And so right now it's her wondering who Spawn is. But when she meets Spawn, honestly, it doesn't go how you expect. Unfortunately, she is very disappointed in Spawn. And so when we get into Spawn number 28, we actually do pick up with Spawn right now, but we do pick up where the last one-shot left off at, where you have Spawn fight against Curse. And really we pick up, I want to say maybe a couple days after that battle, because right now you have Spawn holding Curse against a wall, and technically right now he is a prisoner, but also an example to tell other people if they try to come into Spawn's area, you're gonna get wrecked. And so you better walk away as soon as you see Curse and what I did to him. Now, if you're wondering who in the world Curse is, or possibly forgot who Curse is, remember, Curse was someone who truly believed that he was doing God's work. And so Homeboy went out of his way to actually test Spawn, because he believed that Spawn was the chosen one from God. And when he found out Spawn was actually a hell spawn, he realized that he made a huge mistake. But on top of that, because this man truly believed in God so much, and he wondered when God was going to answer his prayers, you had Curse do a lot of different things to his body to hopefully please God, but at the same time try to do different things to hopefully please God as well when it comes to going after different people. Either way, he was defeated by Spawn in our last video, and so right now you have Spawn technically having Curse tied to the wall to be an example to other people who might try to come into his territory. And so then we pick up with Wanda. Now, Wanda is on her way right now to Spawn territory. And the reason why, because she wants to say thank you to Spawn for saving her husband's life. Because Spawn has done that multiple times very recently when it comes to Spawn comics at this point in time. But the thing is though, this is her right now saying, I have to ask Spawn a few questions, because she wants to know why Spawn has been going out of his way to protect Terry, because she has no idea Spawn is her old ex-husband that came back to life. And right now, it's just Al trying to protect his ex-wife, but also his old best friend. Either way, it's also her right now trying to figure out that why other people were coming after her husband thanks to Spawn. Like, what is his connection? Now, we actually know what is his connection to Terry, because again, Spawn is Terry's best friend. But on top of that though, when it came to Terry, Jason Wynn, another character, the one that actually got Spawn killed, he was the one who was trying to use Terry as a scapegoat, which of course put Terry through a lot of different things. The mafia, his co-workers hated him, like a lot of different things happened to Terry. Now, luckily, all those different things were luckily dropped, but at the same time though, his character was technically ruined. Other people still look at him as some bad person, even though he was clear of all crimes. Either way, it's her saying, I have to find Spawn to hopefully learn more about his connection to us, but at the same time, say thank you for saving Terry, giving Terry the chance to still be a father and a husband. But then we get another page where you technically have Spawn right now just being a total jerk to Curse, because Curse is right now talking about the idea of breaking free and getting his revenge on Spawn. And even though he might break free and try to kill Spawn, Spawn still will come back to life again and most likely find a different way to actually stop Curse. Either way, you have Spawn tell Curse, you're not going anywhere, buddy. Like, you're stuck here forever. Like, I want you to understand this. You're not going anywhere at all, because technically I'm going to use you as an example to keep other people out of my territory. But then we pick up with Wanda. Now, when we do, this is Wanda right now arriving into Spawn's territory. Now, this is where the book kind of tells us a little bit more about Wanda. And what I mean by that is, it tells us that when it comes to Wanda, she had actually grew up in a rough neighborhood, but she knew that at night, she could not stay out late at night. And the reason why, because something bad might actually happen to you. Now, when it comes to Spawn's territory, it's kind of similar to her old neighborhood, meaning that right now, Spawn's area is a tad bit rough. And of course, right now, she's out late at night trying to find Spawn, which means that most likely she might get caught in some kind of problem, some kind of trouble. And of course she is, because as she's walking around this area looking for Spawn, some thugs do see her and begin the process of trying to come after her. And so then we jump over to Sam and Twitch. Now remember, Sam and Twitch are two detectives that were originally trying to hunt down Spawn, but then of course backed off, and then you have Spawn give them a particular folder. Now, when it came to this folder, it does contain a lot of information about their boss, their commissioner, meaning that if that information ever gets out to the public, it could actually ruin his career. And so right now, Spawn told Sam and Twitch to give that folder, that information, over to their commissioner to scare him, to basically say, leave my area alone and get your cops back in line. The problem is though, Sam and Twitch never did what Spawn told them to do, which is hand the file over to your boss. Because right now it's Sam and Twitch saying, we could hold on to this folder and basically use it as a way to blackmail him to keep him off our backs. Now, while you had the story telling us that, you then have Sam go through the folder. Now, when he does go through the folder, he finds something else very important about the commissioner, something that he cannot believe his boss ever did. The problem is though, we do not get told what he saw in that folder. But then we jump over to Terry. Now, when we do, Terry is right now at home with his daughter. And of course, right now, he's not with Wanda because Wanda lied to him. And what I mean by that is Wanda told Terry that she's actually going over a friend's house to help that friend with some kind of charity event. In reality, though, as we now know, she's on her way to say thank you to Spawn. Now, with that being said, though, right now you have Terry looking over different folders that could tell him why in the world he was a scapegoat for Jason Wynn. Except that is the moment he gets a phone call. And of course, it's Wanda's friend wondering where she is at. And he tells her, I was told that she is right now on her way over to your house. And the friend says, that's not true because I never talked to her at all today. Which means right now, Terry knows that Wanda is lying. But then we actually pick up with Wanda right now, going around asking the different homeless people, do they know where she can find Spawn? Now, of course, at first, you do have a lot of people right now telling her, no, unfortunately, we cannot tell you where he is because we never heard of the guy. Now, luckily for her, the last person she does ask tells her, yeah, I know where Spawn is, just follow me. Now, the reason why he's actually helping her out because one, she did pay him, but two, he believes that right now Wanda could be another person coming after Spawn in a bad way, having no idea that right now it's her just wanting to say thank you to him. Either way, when you do have our homeless person take her over to where Spawn usually stays at, well, that is the moment she sees something that terrifies her. And that right there actually terrifies her because right now it's her realizing that maybe Spawn could be a tad bit crazy, but at the same time, a tad bit cruel. Because when she finds Curse is right now being hung against the wall, and of course he looks beaten really badly and bleeding in some areas. And she's kind of like, what in the world is going on here? And she runs off. The problem is though, when she does run off, she does run into some thugs that were following her this entire time. And of course right now, these thugs are plotting to do some bad things to her. And so right now it seems like Wanda might get hurt by these thugs. And of course, that is the moment where you do have Spawn arrive. Now, when Spawn arrives, at first, he has no idea that Wanda is technically there. All he knows is that there's some innocent woman right now who needs his help. And so, of course, he does jump in to actually help out this innocent woman. Now, here's the thing, though. Spawn does not kill off these thugs, but the way he does fight against them, though, is very bloody. It's very, cruel. It's homeboy saying, y'all messed up for two things. One, coming into my area, but two, going after an innocent person in my area. That right there is a huge problem. And so right now you have Spawn just beat down on these thugs left and right. I mean, these guys are getting brutally beaten by Spawn. And of course, once he's all done with them, that is the moment he realized that Wanda is there. And the book ends on a sad moment. And the reason why, because right after Spawn realized that, hey, Wanda's here right now, and you have Wanda say, I came here to tell you thank you for saving my husband's life, but at the same time, I want to know what is your connection to us, to Terry and me. But then she's all like, right now, I can't stay here because I'm terrified of you. And that right there is just hard to hear for Spawn because he came back to life 5 years later to find out his wife was able to get remarried, have a daughter, something that he could not give her 5 years ago. But on top of that, right now, she is scared of him because she had just watched him fight these thugs and brutally beat those thugs down. And so because of that, she's kind of like, listen, I came here to give you this right here, a photo of Terry, me, and our daughter to show you what you did. You brought home a man we love, my daughter and I. We have our father/husband, and that right there is great. But at the same time, I realize you're a monster. Like, look at what you did to these guys. They are in pain. Like, you almost killed them. And then I saw the guy earlier that was hung up in your area, of course, talking about Curse. And she's all like, you're dangerous. And so she runs off. And Spawn is left there to hold the photo of Wanda, Terry, and their daughter. But at the same time, it's him kind of like now realizing that maybe he is a monster when it comes to protecting his area. But at the same time though, his heart is broken to hear the idea that his own wife, the woman he loves, is terrified of him. And what's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. Okay guys, so we are going to continue our coverage over Spawn for Spawn Sundays. Now with that being said, we actually do pick up with Spawn number 29 and Spawn number 30. Now when it comes to these two books right here, they are technically one-shot books, meaning that they tell two different kinds of stories. But here's the thing though, I want to begin to cover more books in each video so that we are actually able to move along with our coverage over Spawn and get back into some more bigger storylines down the road, but of course at a faster rate. Now with that being said, when it comes to Spawn number 29 and Spawn number 30, it's really more Spawn dealing with the worst kinds of people on the earth. Of course, the ones that abuse their children and the other ones who are racist towards a certain kind of race. And so that is where Spawn number 29 and Spawn number 30 come in. And so I do hope you enjoy today's comic book video. And so to get into Spawn number 29, we actually do pick up right now with Spawn in Alabama. Now the reason why Spawn is in Alabama right now, because there was a 3-part storyline, technically a 3-part miniseries for Angela, where Spawn of course had to deal with some things with her and other angels in heaven. Now here's the thing though, because at the end of that storyline, he wasn't dropped back off in New York. Matter of fact, he was dropped off in the middle of Alabama. Now he's still trying to recover from that storyline, and so he does look a tad bit beat up. Now of course, that is the moment he was confronted by a young boy known as Andy. Now when it comes to Andy, Andy is actually a young boy who's right now being abused by his father. And the way Spawn finds this out, because when he looks at Andy, he does see some marks on his back, which of course says, my father is abusing me, or someone is actually abusing me. Now with that being said, you do have Andy try to take Spawn back to his house so that Spawn has somewhere to actually rest and heal up and get back to perfect health. But then we jump over to Wanda and Terry. Now remember, Wanda is the ex-wife of Al Simmons, aka Spawn. After he had died, but right before he was reborn as Spawn, she got remarried to his best friend Terry. Now right now you have Terry very upset with Wanda. And the reason why, because in our last video, Wanda lied to Terry about the idea of where she was going, because she told him that she was going to see a friend. But in reality, she went out in town to go find Spawn to see why Spawn cares for Terry so much, but also learn more about Spawn. Now, the problem was she almost got killed off by a bunch of thugs. Now, luckily for her, she was saved by Spawn, but that's the problem right there. If Spawn was not there, she could have died. And so right now is Terry saying, listen, you have to be careful, but you have to work with me. You just can't go on your own like that because you almost got killed off. Now, of course, she does tell Terry that most likely she will not do that again, because when she saw Spawn protect her, he brutally beat those thugs down that were trying to kill her. And so of course right now she is very scared of Spawn, but at the same time though, she's still wondering who is Spawn actually. But then we jump over to Andy. Now when we do jump over to Andy, this is where we kind of learn more about his life. And what I mean by that is we kind of find out that yes, he is being abused by his father. Now he does have a brother, and that brother is actually Eddie. Now here's the thing though, Eddie does try to protect his younger brother Andy. The problem is though, father is still too strong, and so he is actually able to abuse both boys. Now here's the thing though, because even though the father is so abusive, Andy is still a very happy boy. It's him right now kind of saying, you know what, it happened, but let's move on and let's look on the brighter side of things. Now, here's the thing though. If you're wondering right now, where is the mother? We were technically told that she died. Now, we're not told how she died. Of course, we're left to wonder if the father had killed her off or she died by some kind of disease or something. Either way right now, technically the boys are on their own when it comes to their father. Now, after getting beaten down by their father, you have Andy wanting to show Eddie something very cool in the shed in the backyard. And so that is the moment where we kind of find out that after Andy had found Spawn, he brought Spawn back home to his house, but of course put him in the shed as a way to hide Spawn, but to also give Spawn somewhere to hide and to actually heal up. Now, here's the thing. This is Andy right now showing Eddie Spawn, and Eddie's kind of like, okay, this guy looks cool, but you know, if Dad finds him, Dad is going to kill him, but also kill us as well. Now, this is the moment where you have Spawn ask the boys, are you being abused? Now, this is actually very important, and the reason why, because people who are abused will most time protect their abusers. Unfortunately, it happens. Now, here's the thing. Right now, you have the boys lie about their father, saying, no, our dad is not abusive at all. Matter of fact, we play football and sometimes we get a tad bit too rough. Now, in reality, that's a fat lie. And matter of fact, when it comes to Spawn, he's kind of like, yep, that's a lie. You're right now protecting your father. Now, he does not say that, but he does think that. But right before he's able to offer them any kind of help, well, that is the moment you have the father get very angry about the idea of the two boys right now being outside in the backyard this late on a Saturday. And the reason why, because they have church in the morning. But then we jump over to New York. Now, when we do jump over to New York, we actually pick up with Sam and Twitch. Now, Sam and Twitch are actually two cops in Spawn comics, but most recently they were given a folder by Spawn. Now, when it comes to this folder, it's right now holding a lot of information about one particular person, their boss, Chief Banks. And that right there is actually very important. And the reason why, because when it comes to Chief Banks, apparently he did a lot of bad things. And we kind of find out one bad thing he actually did. And this ties back into Billy Kincaid. Now remember, Billy Kincaid was this serial killer we met all the way back in Spawn number 5. But when it came to Billy Kincaid was this serial killer that went around killing off children. Now that right there is actually very important, because in this folder, Sam and Twitch were able to find out that apparently their boss, Chief Banks, had actually hired Billy Kincaid to kill off a child that belonged to some random politician as a way to control politics in the city. And that right there is very huge, because if that info gets out, Chief Banks is done. And on top of that, he'll get locked up as well. And so even though you have Chief Banks appear and yell at Sam and Twitch, honestly, Sam does not care at all. He's kind of like, listen, yell all you want. I got something on you, my dude. But then we jump back over to Andy and also Eddie. Now, when we do, you do have the two young boys right now with their father. And matter of fact, they go to church. And this is the wild part, because like most abusive situation, when you're around other people, the abuser pretends that he's actually a good person, a good guy, or a good woman. Either way though, right now, you have the dad pretending that he's a great father, and the boys are loved so much and taken care of like no other. But here's the thing though, because as soon as they get home, Andy gets in trouble once again, because apparently he dropped the last beer that was in the fridge. And of course the dad gets mad and begins the process of beating his child once again. Except this time he goes a tad bit too far, where he actually pulls out a gun. And this is the wild part, because it's right now him saying, let's play Russian roulette and let's see if I pull the trigger, will you actually die or live? Now, luckily for Andy and also Eddie, the gun did not go off, and you have the dad walk away because the boys are so scared he finds it amusing. Now, after the boys did get abused by their father, you then have them be confronted by Spawn. And Spawn knows they were once again abused by their father, except this time Spawn is right now back to full health, or to the point where he should be able to handle Andy and Eddie's father like it's no big deal. Either way right now, he does promise the boys that things will get better, that he will go after their father and make sure that he'll never ever again put his hands on his children like he is right now. Now, of course, you do have the boys still want to somewhat protect their father. At the same time, though, they're kind of like, no, we're done protecting him. We just wish he'll just leave us alone and go away forever. We do not love him at all. Either way, you have Spawn hug the boys and he begins the process for looking for the father and to hopefully stop him. Now, this is actually very important. And the reason why, because you actually do have Spawn right now find the father to the boys. Now, when he does, this is Spawn right now expressing the idea that basically he hates the idea of a man hitting a child like this guy does. But as you have Spawn right now technically beating down on the father of the boys, you do have this random one-panel flashback where it looks like Wanda was actually abused by Spawn. Now, of course, we don't know it was Spawn when he was alive, but we do see a hand right now hitting a woman. And of course, it seems like it could be Wanda being hit by Al before he had died, which means that Spawn could have been an abuser before he had died. Either way right now, you have Spawn right now telling the father, if I find out that you touch the boys again, I'm going to kill you myself. And you would think the book would actually end on a good note, right? Because now you have Spawn saying, hey man, listen, if you touch your kids again, I'm going to kill you. And you would think the dad would go home and try to be a better man. Unfortunately, he does not, because as soon as the boys get home, they see their dad. And right now their dad is covered in writing. And of course it says, I beat my children. Now, here's the thing. The dad knows no one else knows what he does to his kids except him and his kids. And so right now he's saying, you told someone what I do to you. And now I'm even more angrier. And so this is the point where you actually have the father wanting to kill off his boys, particularly Andy, the youngest one. And of course, he begins the process of trying to kill off Andy. Now, Eddie does run away, but didn't he realize what he could do to save his brother? And so he finds his dad's gun. And of course, right when the dad tried to stop Eddie from using the gun goes off. And we're left to wonder who got shot and killed, the dad, Eddie, or possibly Andy. Either way, Spawn number 29 ends on that note right there. And so when we jump into Spawn number 30, we actually do pick up right now with Spawn walking home from Alabama to New York. Now, the reason why he's not trying to just teleport back home to New York, because he knows he will use up a lot of necroplasm. And when he does run out of necroplasm, he would have to go back to hell and of course join the army of course, Malbolgia. And so right now it's him saying, let me just walk home and try not to use any of my necroplasm to hopefully get home and stay on Earth. Now the thing is though, as he's walking home right now, that is the moment where he's almost hit by a truck. And of course in that truck you have a bunch of guys who are technically right now dressed as the KKK. And of course for Spawn, he's wondering there's no way that people in today's time is still out there right now belonging to that group in this world. And so of course it's Spawn saying, I better follow and see they're not trying to kill innocent people because they're racist. And so that leads in the storyline, jumping over to a random family where right now they're trying to put out a fire. Now, the reason why they're trying to put out a fire because this fire could have the potential to actually reach the house of this family. But the fire was actually started by the KKK. And of course, the reason why, because they want all black families out of their town. And apparently this family right here are the last ones in the town to be black. And of course, they're not leaving. Now, when it comes to the wife, she does want to leave. But when it comes to the father, he's kind of like, no, I want to stay here because this is our home. This is our land. We fought for this land. We bought this land. It's not fair. We have to give up our land because people out there hate us because of our skin color. Now, you do have Spawn arrive. When Spawn does arrive, you do have the father of this family kind of freak out because he believes that Spawn could also be part of the KKK. But here's the thing though, this guy has no idea that Spawn is actually black. Well, I guess you say was black because he did die and he was reborn as a Hellspawn, but at the same time, he's still black. Either way, when it comes to this father, he has no idea that Spawn is actually black. That Spawn actually does understand what this guy is going through when it comes to the KKK. And so you do have Spawn be able to actually find the KKK who has set fire to the crops that was near the family's house. Now here's the thing though, because when it comes to this book, for the sake of the book, they knew that if Spawn found these guys, the story could technically be wrapped up just like that. But of course, we have to sell you guys, or back then, sell us an entire book. And so when it comes to Spawn right now confronting the members of the KKK, right when he does confront them, he is actually shot right in the head. And of course, he's dead. Now, we already know when it comes to Spawn, he can't die so easily. It's going to take more harder methods as a way to make sure that he is actually dead, which means that sooner or later Spawn is going to get right back up again and come back for revenge against the members of the KKK. Either way, when they do believe that they were able to actually kill him off, they do hang him in a tree and say, yeah, we did kill him off, and let this be a sign to other black people in the city. Get out now before we kill you as well and hang your body on a tree nearby. Now that is the moment where the next day you do have the father of the family being able to actually find Spawn being hung in the tree. And so you do have the guy begin the process of trying to cut Spawn down from the tree. Except that is the moment where he's actually confronted by two members of the KKK. And that is the moment where they tell him, put your gun down. And of course they are plotting to do something bad to him as well. Except that is the moment where you actually do have Spawn wake back up, because again, he can't die so easily, and he does take out both members of the KKK. Now, he doesn't kill them, but he does beat them down very badly, to the point where you have the two members technically take the father of the family to court. Now, when it comes to the actual court session, this is where technically you see how corrupted this city actually is, because when it comes to the father, yes, they do go to court, but you also have the father trying to sue the KKK for basically damages to his property, his crops. Now, unfortunately, when it comes to the judge of this case, he says, listen, this case is dismissed because there is not enough evidence to prove that these guys who you claim to be part of the KKK actually did damage to your crops. Even though it's really obvious, right now you come to find out the judge is also corrupted, that the judge is also another member of the KKK. But did we actually pick up with a meaning going on with the actual group of the KKK? Now, when we do, we actually see them right now plotting with the judge to say, we are going to go after the father of that family. Now, Spawn overhears this, but this is actually very important. And the reason why, because when it comes to this meeting, is Spawn saying that when it comes to this group in the city, it seems like the judge is the one actually in charge of this group. Meaning that if you're able to kind of get rid of the judge, you might be able to do other things to the rest of the group in the city. And so right now you have the judge on the rest of the group. They're going to go after the family one more time, but especially the father, to go ahead and kill him off because, again, they are the last black family in this city. And so you have Spawn say, you know what? Let me go ahead and actually deal with this judge here and now. And to really wrap up today's video, but also Spawn number 30, we kind of find out what Spawn actually did to the judge. And what he did to the judge was he turned the judge black. by using his necroplasm, he was actually able to turn the judge black. And that right there is actually very important, because when the rest of the members of the KKK come back to their boss, the judge, they find him being black now, and they believe that he was actually the ones tricking them, that in reality he was never white, he was black. Now of course we know he was white, but right now they believe that he was some black guy pretending to be a white guy. Either way, you do have the members of the KKK kill off the judge just like that, because again, he is a black guy now, and so he died. And so you have Spawn tell the family, listen, I believe when it comes to the judge, you have nothing else to worry about. But unfortunately, you still have to worry about the other members of the group here in the city. So please protect yourselves the best you can. And you have Spawn leave and begin to go back to New York once again. What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. Okay guys, so we're going to continue our coverage over Spawn for Spawn Sundays, where we actually do pick up with Spawn number 31 and Spawn number 32, a two-part storyline where technically we do see the return of Anti-Spawn. But this time, it's going to be a different kind of character. And matter of fact, he will no longer call himself Anti-Spawn. He'll call himself something different, something new. But at the same time, his goal is not to go after Spawn, but after somebody else. And that right there is actually pretty crazy. But at the same time, this is Spawn right now, finally getting back to New York. And with him coming back to New York, his main goal is to get back to work with what he was doing in his territory, protecting the people he actually cares for a lot. And so when we jump into Spawn number 31, we actually do pick up right now with Spawn arriving into New York. Now, the reason why I say arriving back into New York is because in our last video, Spawn was actually in Alabama. Now, the reason why he was out there is because he was actually dropped off by some angels. And so he had to work very hard to get back to New York. Now, of course, he is back in New York now, and he's very happy about the idea of being back in New York. Now, this is not Spawn being happy about the idea of being able to see Wanda nor Terry, his ex-wife and his old best friend. Instead, he wants to make sure that the people that he was protecting, the homeless people, are still okay. Because we have to remember, in the earlier books of Spawn, he basically took this area of New York and said, this area right here belongs to me. It's my territory. And the reason why he did that as a way to protect the homeless people in the area. Now, with that being said though, right now you have Spawn technically just happy about the idea of being able to find all his old friends, the homeless people, still there, and they're also happy that he is finally back. And so at first, it seemed like a great book to read, a happy story, but of course, it's about to get dark. And so then we jump over to Terran Affairs headquarters. Now this is actually an office building that's owned by Heaven. And what I mean by that is usually you have a bunch of hunters who go out in the world to hunt down hellspawns come over here to basically check in before they're able to actually hunt down hellspawns. Now with that being said, when it comes to Terran Affair headquarters, it was actually run by a different person. Now she's no longer there because thanks to the 3-part miniseries that had focused on Angela, she's no longer around. And so we have a new person in charge, and that would be Raphael, or Raphael. I do know the name is pronounced in many kinds of ways. Now, with that being said, when it comes to Raphael, she's basically right now making a call over to Angel Station 1. Now remember, Angel Station 1 is basically a space station that's also owned by the forces of Heaven. Now, the reason why she's technically making this call right now because she wants to go ahead and get rid of Al Simmons. But the thing is, you actually have Angel Station 1 tell her there's now more than one Hellspawns on Earth. There are 3. The other 2 are technically weaker, but at the same time though, there are 3 Hellspawns right now on Earth. And so, of course, she does get a tad bit scared. And so she does ask Angel Station 1, is their new weapon ready to go? And of course, right now, they're talking about the idea of a new upgraded anti-spawn. But this right here is not going to be anti-spawn at all. It is going to be a new character that is very similar to anti-spawn, but works in a different kind of way. But when it comes to this new weapon, of course, they need a new host. And this time, they're not going to use Jason Wynn. But then we jump over to Terry. Now, when we do, this is technically the guy who used to be the best friend of Al Simmons before Al had died 5 years ago. Now, Terry also married Wanda, the ex-wife of Al Simmons as well. But when it comes to Terry, in the earlier books of Spawn, this guy right here went through the ringer. I mean, literally, guys. And what I mean by that is, Terry went through a lot thanks to Jason Wynn, who was trying to use Terry as a scapegoat. Now, luckily for Terry, Spawn did step in and was able to clear all charges for Terry. But the thing is though, is Terry right now wondering, why did Jason use him for? And so you had Terry begin the process of trying to look into Jason Wynn files. The problem is though, his files are so secure right now that Terry is unable to access any of the files. Now, of course, this was most likely done by Jason Wynn as a way to cover up his tracks, but at the same time to make sure that no one will find out that technically he was the one who killed off Al Simmons 5 years ago. But then we jump back over to Spawn, who's right now talking to one of the many homeless people in his area. And right now they are talking about the idea of what Spawn went through over the last couple of books. Of course, angels, some racist people, an abusing father. This man went through a lot in a very short period of time. Either way right now, you didn't have the homeless guy realize that Spawn costume is technically ripped up a little bit, mainly his cape. Now remember, when it comes to his actual costume, it's made out of necroplasm, and when it comes to his costume, it's alive. It is technically a symbiote, but right now most of the cape is missing, and so right now you have Spawn realize that his cape is technically not at full strength. It is weak. Now the reason why most of the cape is actually missing, it all happened back in the Angela 3-part miniseries that we had to skip over. Now with that being said though, it's him right now hoping that his cape will be able to recover and get back to his full strength, but also the right size once again. Now this right here is going to be really important for this 2-part storyline. And so then we actually pick up with a new character known as Phil Timber. Now when it comes to Phil Timber, he is actually a new character that is going to be very important for this 2-part storyline. And the reason why, because Phil Timber used to be a guy who would get into a lot of trouble, and I mean a lot of trouble. Now, of course, the last time he went to prison, he gave his life over to God. Now, right after that though, of course, you didn't have Timber realize that, you know what, let me do God's work. And because of that, it made him the perfect choice. And you're probably wondering, the choice of what? To become the next anti-Spawn, or technically the better version of anti-Spawn. And so you have Angel Station 1, the forces of heaven, literally grab this man and say, you are going to be the new host for our new creation, just like that. And so then we jump back over to Sam and Twitch. Now remember, Sam and Twitch are technically 2 detectives in New York City. But here's the big thing though, guys, because when it comes to Sam and Twitch, they're right now blackmailing their boss. And what I mean by that is, we kind of find out their chief and also Jason Wynn, they were working together. And matter of fact, they hired Billy Kincaid, the child serial killer, to go after a certain child, the child of a political person, as a way to hurt that person in some kind of way to make sure things went their way when it comes to that political person. And so right now, with a file that came out of nowhere that says, we have information about you, we know that you have worked with Billy Kincaid, the child serial killer, it's right now the chief freaking out, and he's wondering what in the world could happen to him and his career. But then we jump back over to Spawn. Now, when we do, this is technically Spawn right now being confronted by a new anti-Spawn. And technically, this is not anti-Spawn. Matter of fact, this guy right here calls himself the Redeemer. Yes, you heard that right, the Redeemer. And let me explain, because right now the Redeemer is not coming after Spawn. The Redeemer is coming after a friend of Spawn, Bobby. And you're probably wondering, who is Bobby? Well, let me explain, because we've seen Bobby a lot of times in Spawn comics, but usually as a minor character, except for right now, because we come to find out that technically the reason why the Redeemer is not going after Spawn and going after Bobby instead is because Spawn gave Bobby some of his Spawn energy. And so right now, it's the Redeemer saying, we're trying to fix that because look at what you did. You gave your friend some of your energy. Now for Spawn, he has no idea what the Redeemer is talking about. But we do know, because remember, in the earlier books of Spawn, Bobby was dead, but Spawn had to use his powers as a way to bring Bobby back to life. And so that is what the Redeemer is talking about, what Spawn did a while back, how he brought, of course, Bobby back to life. Either way right now, this is Spawn saying, I don't care what you are trying to tell me right now. Technically, I'm trying to save my friend from you. And of course, it does lead into a battle. But here's the thing though, Redeemer right now has the advantage over Spawn. Because remember, the Redeemer is more powerful than Anti-Spawn. And technically, Spawn got lucky when it came to defeating Anti-Spawn. But on top of that, Spawn is still exhausted from his last few adventures in Alabama and of course in heaven. But at the same time, his cape right now cannot even help him, because right now it's also badly defeated, badly weakened right now. And so right now the Redeemer has the advantage. And matter of fact, you have the Redeemer beat down on Spawn to the point where he just leaves Spawn on the ground to bleed out and then takes Bobby away back to Angel Station 1. Now, right after the Redeemer had left, well, that is the moment where the cape comes to life and the cape begins to actually heal itself up, but to also heal Spawn up. And this right here is unlocking a new form for Spawn to use against his enemies. And so right now, technically, this is Spawn right now getting an upgrade to make him a tad bit stronger once again, to hopefully help him down the road against future enemies. But right now, we just wrapped up part 1, and you're going to have Spawn be confronted by God next in part 2. And so then when we get into Spawn number 32, we actually pick back up with Terran Affair headquarters, where we actually do pick up right now with Raphael, or Raphael. Either way, she's right now meeting her boss. Now, this boss right here at first technically has no name. And matter of fact, we don't learn the name of this character until the end of this book. But when she does walk in, you can tell that Raphael is kind of scared about the idea of this little old lady who's technically her boss. Now, when it comes to her boss, she does tell Raphael to call me by Mandy, because she could look into Raphael's life and realize that Raphael had a great mother, and her mother was named Mandy. Either way, once you have the two ladies begin to talk to each other about the idea of what their goal is to technically help guide souls in the right direction, well, that is the moment where you actually have Spawn appear. Now, when Spawn does appear, of course, you have everybody freaking out. Now, remember, at the end of the last chapter, Spawn did get a new outfit. Technically, it's not that much better. Really, it's very similar to the last one. Either way right now, of course, you have Raphael freaking out because technically the old lady who is her boss is in grave danger right now because of Spawn. Because when it comes to Raphael, when she does look at Spawn, she looks at Spawn as a hellspawn, something evil, demonic, and right now it needs to be killed off. And so of course, that is the moment she says, bring in security, like right now. And that's when you have all these different kinds of guards just bust right in with guns like, okay, we're here, we're going to surround him, like, okay, we got this. But the problem is though, when they get around Spawn, when they look up, they realize Homeboy now has a hostage, and that hostage is actually, of course, the old lady, who's right now going by Mandy, but she is the boss of Raphael and most angels in this area. And so right now, it's Spawn saying, you have one option right now. Give me Bobby back now. If you don't, I'm going to kill off this old lady right here and now. And of course, for Raphael, she's freaking out right now because her boss is in grave danger right now because of Spawn. Now you're probably wondering, how in the world did Spawn find this place at all? Because technically this place was hidden. This place belongs to the forces of heaven. And we do get a small flashback. And when it comes to the small flashback, we kind of find out that technically Spawn was given directions to this place by Cagliostro. Now Cagliostro is a very interesting character, and technically we have not learned anything at all about the character just yet, but later on we will. But either way, right now, he was the one who told Spawn where to go if he wants to get Bobby back in his life again. But then we jump back over to Terry and Wanda, and this is actually very important. And the reason why, because technically right now, you have Terry telling Wanda that he's trying to learn more about Jason Wynn and why Jason Wynn tried to use him as a scapegoat. And so right now, technically, you have Terry telling Wanda, I put in a transfer request that will give me the ability to work under Jason so that I'll be able to work close to him and to figure out why in the world is he coming after me for? Like, what is this man actually plotting to do to me and my family? Now, of course, Wanda is scared, but she understands why Terry is actually doing this for, to get some answers. And so, of course, right now, all he has to do is turn in his transfer request, and most likely he'll begin the process of working for Jason Wynn. And speaking of Jason Wynn, we finally see him in his two-part storyline. But when we do, it's technically right now Jason Wynn freaking out. And the reason why he is freaking out, because right now he's getting a call from the sheriff of the police department about the idea that someone had a file that has all the information to prove that Jason Wynn and the sheriff of the police department had hired Billy Kincaid, the serial child killer, to go out there and kill a Pacific child that belonged to a Pacific politician. And so, of course, right now, it's Jason freaking out because this is another problem on his plate. And he's wondering who in the world is doing all of this. Now, of course, you do have the sheriff actually tell Jason Wynn it was Spawn. But for Jason, he has no idea who this Spawn character actually is. And so right now, he wants to know, why in the world is Spawn coming after him so much for? Like, why? What did he do to Spawn? And we know what, because 5 years ago, Jason hired someone to kill off Al Simmons. And Al knows, but Jason has no idea Spawn is actually Al. But then we jump back over to Spawn. Now, when we do, it's technically Spawn right now still telling Raphael what he wants. And of course, he wants Bobby. He wants Bobby right now in exchange for the old lady's life. Now, of course, when it comes to Raphael, she does not want to do that at all. And matter of fact, she keeps telling Spawn, Bobby is not here. Matter of fact, Bobby is right now on Angel Station 1. He's in space, so honestly, you came here for nothing. But for Spawn, he knows that Raphael has the ability to teleport Bobby back down to Earth to this specific area. And so right now, it's him saying, no. You are going to bring Bobby here now. If you don't, I am going to basically kill this old lady. And of course, you have Raphael realize that Spawn is actually very serious. But at the same time, he's not that serious because Spawn is not going to kill an innocent old lady. But at the same time, though, he will kill the guards to get Bobby back. Either way, she said, you know what? Fine. I'll bring Bobby here. And of course, Bobby is teleported back down to Earth right in front of Spawn. But now her goal is to tell the guards to go ahead and kill off Spawn and Bobby. And of course, we do get a few pages where you have the guards try to kill off Spawn. And on top of that, you also have the Redeemer there as well. Now, here's the thing though, because with Spawn's new costume, he's technically more powerful than he was in the last chapter. And so right now, when it comes to their battle, Spawn is able to actually defeat the Redeemer just like that. bam, bam, boogie. The Redeemer is defeated. The guards, they honestly do not stand a chance at all. Either way, it's Spawn realizing that he has to get Bobby out of here now. And so right at the very last second, him and Bobby do teleport out of that building. Now you do have Spawn and Bobby being able to teleport back to the alleyway they stay at. But right after they do that, of course, Spawn just passes out. And of course, you have Bobby right now freaking out. But that is the moment where Bobby is confronted by Cagliostro. He does ask Cagliostro to help Spawn out. But you have Cagliostro tell Bobby, listen, Spawn is okay, he is just resting. And honestly, he needs the rest because what he just did is crazy. But on top of that, he had just met God. And you have Bobby like, wait, what? He met God. At the same time, you're probably like, wait, what do you mean he just met God? And so then we jump back over to Terran Affair headquarters, where we actually do pick up with that old lady and also Raphael. And we kind of find out that apparently the old lady could be God just in disguise. Either way, you have Raphael wondering how in the world Spawn was able to technically break through the defenses, because honestly, this building is heavily protected. How in the world did he get inside? And that is the moment where you do have the old lady say, well, let me explain something for you. The building defenses were actually made to protect the building from non-believers or people who are technically pure evil. And when it comes to Spawn, he's not pure evil. But on top of that, he is not a non-believer. He actually is a believer in God. And so that right there is actually very important. And the reason why, because technically right now, this old lady who may be God is saying that when it comes to Spawn, he's not a bad guy. He's actually a good guy. Unfortunately, he is just on the wrong side. What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, guys, so we are going to continue our coverage over Spawn for Spawn Sundays, where we actually do pick up right now with Spawn number 33 and Spawn number 34. Now, with that being said, this is a two-part storyline where technically right now you have the return of Violator. Now, he wasn't dead or anything, it's just that he's now coming back once again to get revenge against Spawn to cause more problems for Spawn. And matter of fact, this is more of a prelude for bigger storylines to come down the road, which of course is going to involve all the different people that Spawn actually cares for. And so to begin today's storyline, we actually do pick up right now with Spawn in the alleyways, his territory in New York, talking to the homeless people that he has been protecting. Now, right now, this is Spawn actually telling the homeless people that they should go ahead and move away from this area. Now, the reason why Spawn is saying that because over time, a lot of different things had happened in this area. And of course, different kind of people have been coming here to get to Spawn. At the same time, they have been using the homeless people that he was supposed to protect as a way to get to him. And so right now he's saying, we should leave. We should start over. As a matter of fact, I found a safer place for us all. But here's the thing though, because you have Bobby say no. Now remember, Bobby is actually very important because when it comes to Bobby, he was the one that died in the earlier books of Spawn, but he was brought back to life thanks to Spawn using magic on Bobby. And so because of that, is Bobby right now saying, listen, you know I have the ability to make you actually think straight. And right now, I want to tell you, it's a bad idea for us to move. And the reason why, because even if we do move, someone or something is still gonna find us. And so if you want to change things, you're gonna have to play more offense rather than defense. Now at the same time though, guys, we had to skip over a storyline known as Spawn Blood Feud. And the reason why, because I could not find a way to buy a copy of that storyline for me to use as a video. And so with that being said, we had to skip over that storyline. But technically in that storyline, Spawn found out that Chapel did kill him, but someone had ordered Chapel to actually kill him. And so is Bobby right now saying, listen, you know someone told Chapel to kill you, so why not go on the hunt to find the person that gave that order over to Chapel? Begin your process of playing offense to protect us. Go out there and find the person that wanted you dead. But then we actually pick up with Sam and Twitch. Now remember, Sam and Twitch are technically two detectives in New York City, but recently they have been working on two different kinds of cases. One, to figure out who Spawn is, and two, to bring down their boss, the sheriff. Because we had learned that technically the sheriff is working with Jason Wynn. But on top of that, they both hired Billy Kincaid, a child serial killer, to kill off a specific child to go after a political person. Either way right now, it's Sam and Twitch trying to bring their own boss down, but at the same time figure out who their boss is actually working with. Now, in Spawn Blood Feud, Twitch got injured. He's okay. He'll recover, but right now we come to find out that this guy actually has an entire family. Matter of fact, homeboy got like 4 or 5 kids. But then we actually pick up with a random character who is right now giving an update over to Violator about what Spawn is about to do. And he does tell Violator that technically right now, Spawn wants to leave, or Spawn is trying to get away. And that right there really does bother Violator a lot, because when it comes to Violator, he was technically made as a way to train Hellspawns when they're on Earth. And of course right now, this specific Spawn bothers him the most out of any spawns in the past. And so right now, when he hears the idea that Spawn wants to leave and go into hiding, he's kind of like, no, that cannot happen. I want to technically see Spawn and fight him once again. But then we jump over to Terran Affairs headquarters. And the reason why, because we are being reminded of what happened in the last video. And what I mean by that is, in the last video, Spawn was able to attack these headquarter base. Now that right there should have not been possible at all. And the reason why, because this headquarters belongs to the forces of heaven. But on top of that, they made sure this building was protected by some kind of heaven force to make sure evil cannot get in. Because when it comes to Spawn, Al Simmons, he is technically a hell Spawn. But on the last video, God said the reason why Spawn was able to get inside the building is because Spawn is not actually evil. And matter of fact, he is a believer in God. And so that is how he was able to break into the actual building. Either way right now, Raphael is still angry about the idea that Spawn was able to pull that off. But then we jump over to Jason Wynn. Now remember, Jason Wynn is right now under a lot of pressure. And the reason why, because technically this is the guy that had ordered to get Spawn killed off 5 years ago. But on top of that, recently, Spawn has been doing a lot of different things where now you have a lot of higher ups in Jason Wynn's company right now wondering if they can actually work with Jason Wynn or if they can actually trust Jason Wynn. And so right now they are thinking about the idea of removing him from the company. And so he is freaking out. But on top of that, he's very concerned about the idea that one of his dark secrets might get out. And of course, that dark secret is him and the sheriff of the police department hiring Billy Kincaid, the child serial killer, to kill off a Pacific child. He's afraid that right there might get out. But on top of that, Terry Fitzgerald, the old best friend of Al Simmons, has transferred over to Jason's Wynn office. And that right there is very concerning for Jason Wynn, because he's wondering right now, what is Terry trying to do? In reality, is Terry right now trying to figure out what is so wrong with Jason Wynn? Why he's so dirty? What is Jason trying to hide right now? But at the same time wondering if Jason does have some kind of connection to the death of Al Simmons, which he does. And so then we jump over to Spawn. Now when we do, this is technically Spawn right now just sleeping until he's confronted by some random young man. Now when it comes to this young man, he apparently says Spawn's real name, which is Al Simmons. And the thing is though, for Spawn, no one should know his name outside of his homeless group. And so right now, he is very concerned why this young man actually knows his real name. And when he asks the young man, the guy says, my boss told me your name, but to also tell you, once I call you by your name, that he wants to meet with you. And of course, Spawn's kind of like, okay, who is your boss? But the guy cannot tell Spawn who is his actual boss. Now we know who his boss is. Of course, it is Violator right now who wants to come after Spawn once again. Either way, you have Spawn let the young boy go, and he says, you know what? I am going to follow the young boy. And that right there is the right move, but at the same time, unfortunately, the young boy dies because as soon as he gets back over to Violator, he tells him, hey boss, I told Spawn what you wanted me to tell him. And matter of fact, he should be on his way. And of course, for our friend here, not friend, really bad guy, the storyline, Violator, he's kind of like, okay, thank you for completing your mission. Now you die. And he kills off the young man and leaves his body out as a way for Spawn to be all like, what just happened? I lost him for 1 second and someone was able to kill him. Why in the world would they do that? And what in the world is going on? And as soon as Spawn tries to go in the sewers to see if there's anything down there, he is grabbed by Violator, and this begins their next round of fights. And so when you have Spawn and Violator fight against one another, well, their battle is actually pretty interesting here. And the reason why, because we have to remember, when it comes to Violator, he was technically created by Malbolgia, of course, the devil of the 8th circle in hell. But when it comes to Malbolgia, the reason why he made Violator and his brothers and sister is to basically train Hellspawns when they're on Earth. Now, here's the thing though, because originally when it came to Violator, he was made without an actual purpose. Later on, he was given a purpose, but at first he wasn't. But when it comes to Hellspawns, their purpose is actually bigger than Violator and his brothers. And that right there actually ticks off him even more because it seems like to Malbolgia, Hellspawns are better than he is. And he hates that idea so much. And when it comes to Al Simmons, he hates Al even more because Al believes that technically he's the best killer in New York. But for I don't know why I said Mr., but for Violator, he's kind of like, no, I'm the best thing right now in New York. And matter of fact, I'm better at killing than you are. It's him right now just trying to prove a point that no matter what, he will always be better than Spawn. Now, why you have the two characters actually battling against each other, well, that is the moment where you have Violator realize that when it comes to Spawn's outfit, it had evolved to a certain point where technically it's more advanced at an earlier time than it should be. And that right there is very scary for Violator because he's kind of like, wait a second, your suit had already evolved. Your necroplasm symbiote suit had evolved already to a point where it's really advanced. That right there should not be happening so soon. What in the world is going on with you? Now, of course, for Spawn, he's kind of like, dude, I have no idea what you're even talking about. Either way, you do have the two guys continue to fight against each other, except that is the moment where a pipe in the sewers actually busts open and being able to drown both of them, but at the same time, it breaks the fight up. And so you have Spawn say, oh my God, I had lost him, but you know what? Let me take this time to get away and to catch my breath. But at the same time wondering what in the world is up with Violator. Why is he coming after me for once again? And so then we get into Spawn number 34. Now, when we do, we actually pick back up with Violator. Now, when we do actually pick back up with Violator, is him right now technically ticked off with the idea that some random sewer pipe actually broke and basically flooded sewers and gave Spawn a way out of their battle. But at the same time, is him right now realizing that when it came to that sewer pipe, it did not break by itself. That technically someone else broke broke the pipe to actually help out Spawn. Now here's the thing though, because you actually do have Violator right now see the person who actually broke the pipe. The thing is though, the person right now is in the shadows, and so for us, but also Violator, we do not see the person's face at all. And matter of fact, they are able to get away from Violator so easily. But either way right now, technically it is Violator right now saying it's time for him to come up with a new game plan as a way to actually hurt Spawn in some new kind of way. But then we get this random page to remind us that when it comes to Wanda, she is the wife to Terry, but at the same time they do have a child together. But also we have to remember that technically she is the ex-wife of Al Simmons. Of course that would be Spawn. But right now this page right here is just technically her and her daughter paying a visit to her grandmother, and that's really it. So a small quick reminder that Wanda is still a very important character in Spawn comics. But then out of nowhere, we do actually pick up with a young boy named Tyrone. Now Tyrone is going to be somewhat important for this storyline. But right now Tyrone is a 10-year-old boy who's technically in the bad parts of New York, where of course you do have sex workers and you have drug dealers. Now with that being said, he is pulled aside by a random drug dealer. And apparently when it came to Tyrone, he actually made a deal with this random drug dealer to get some new kind of drug. Now here's the thing though, because apparently Tyrone had ticked off this random drug dealer to the point where this new dealer said, if you want this drug, it's going to cost you some extra money. But either way, Tyrone is able to actually pay the actual drug dealer. Now here's the problem I had with this section, because at first I was very confused on how in the world a 10-year-old boy has the ability to buy drugs that cost like $600. Like literally, where did the boy get the money from? Either way, in the shadows, Spawn watched the young boy actually buy the drugs. And so right now, this is Spawn saying, I'm gonna step in. And matter of fact, we do see Spawn step in, but after the deal was actually done. And what I mean by that is you do have the drug dealer go to a club where you are technically able to watch women fight in mud. Of course, they're half naked, and so it does bring some kind of entertainment for the drug dealer. Now, with that being said, while he's right now watching the two ladies technically fight in the mud half naked, well, that is the moment where you have Spawn come from behind. And matter of fact, you have Spawn kill off this drug dealer as a way to say, you are not supposed to sell drugs to a young boy, especially a 10-year-old boy. Like, what are you doing? You are technically ruining the young boy's life, his future actually. But of course, the way Spawn did kill the drug dealer off, he did leave a lot of blood, and some of that blood did gush out into the actual arena where the two ladies were fighting in the mud. But then we get another page to remind us about Malbolgia. Now remember, Malbolgia is technically the devil of the 8th circle. And when it comes to Malbolgia, they are right now getting ready for a big war against heaven. And especially they're right now trying to build up their Hellspawn army. Now, when it comes to Hellspawns on Earth, they are supposed to be like the leaders of the army. And so when it comes to Al Simmons, he is a Hellspawn, but he is on Earth. And right now, technically, this is his training session to make him the perfect candidate to be a leader for the army of Malbolgia, to use the army against the forces of heaven. And so right now, it's technically just Malbolgia saying that he is always watching over Al Simmons and of course anything else happening right now on the earth. But then we jump back over to Jason Wynn. Now, when we do, this is technically Jason Wynn right now meeting up with Violator. Well, technically, it's actually Violator meeting up with Jason Wynn, because Violator knows that Jason Wynn was the person who ordered the hit on Al Simmons 5 years ago. And so technically right now, This is Violator saying, you know what? If I want to technically get at Spawn, I know who to go to, Jason Wynn, the person that actually killed them off. But at the same time though, I can use Jason Wynn to kind of help me go after the different people that Spawn cares so much about. So of course, Wanda, Terry, and the other homeless people in the area that Spawn is supposed to protect. And so of course, you do have Violator tell Jason Wynn that he can actually help Jason deal with his Spawn problem. Because remember, there is a file out there that contains a lot of evidence about the idea that Jason Wynn had technically hired Billy Kincaid, the child serial killer, to do a job. And so right now, it's Jason kind of like, listen, if I can get rid of Spawn, then all my problems can go away. And so he does agree to actually work with Violator. Now you do have Violator tell Jason Wynn the first person they're going to use as a way to hurt Spawn is Terry. Because remember, Terry just transferred over to Jason Wynn's department. And so right now it's him saying, let's use Terry as a way to get to Spawn. Now, out of nowhere, we do get 2 pages to basically show us that when it comes to Twitch, of course, he's in the hospital still, but apparently has a hot wife. And the reason why I'm saying that, because while you have Sam right now trying to buy some kind of random soda or whatever, he does see a hot redhead walk by. He's kind of like, yo, wait a second. Who in the world is this hot redhead? And then he follows the hot redhead into Twitch's hospital room to kind of find out that technically this is Twitch's wife. And so it sounds kind of like, how in the world did Twitch be able to pull someone so hot like her? But either way, it's technically Sam right now promising Twitch that he'll make sure to bring down the sheriff and anybody else who could be connected to the sheriff when it comes to Billy Kincaid being used to kill off a Pacific child. But then we jump back over to Jason Wynn. Now, when we do, this is Jason Wynn right now getting a call from the president, where you actually do have the president telling Jason Wynn a good job on a Pacific mission. The problem is though, Jason Wynn was not the one who actually took care of that mission. Now, once you have Jason Wynn hangs up the phone, well, of course, he does get another call. And this call came from the Violator this time. And this is him right now saying, this is what happens when you work with me. I'm able to actually help you accomplish different things and get people back on your good side again, or really get you back on their good side again. And so right now, I'm helping you actually get off other people's bad side right now. And so right now, the president is back to saying, you know what? I like Jason Wynn. This is what I can do for you, Jason, if you agree to work with me. And of course, you have Jason right now telling Violator, yes, I'll work with you when it comes to bringing down Spawn. But then we jump back over to Spawn. Now, when we do see him right now technically getting lectured by Cogliastro. Now remember, Cogliastro is a random character in Spawn comics, but we have no idea what is his actual origin. Now, when it comes to Cogliastro, he's right now telling Spawn that technically Spawn needs to focus. And what he means by that is, when it came to Tyrone, that young boy earlier who bought the drugs from the drug dealer, you have Cog tell Spawn that technically you went after the wrong person. And what he means by that is, yes, you saw an innocent boy, but what if I tell you the boy was actually involved in 2 murders? But on top of that, the boy is also a drug dealer. But on top of that, what if I tell you that technically he had his own drug ring for a long time, but unfortunately it fell apart. And so right now, he was out there looking for a new drug to use to sell in his area. And so you went after some random guy because you thought he was going after kids to sell drugs. But in reality though, you need to think things through and go after the right person. Now, I'm not saying kill the young boy. What I'm saying is though, when it comes to using your powers, use your powers correctly and make sure when you do use your powers, it's for the best option or the better choice. Either way, I'm going to leave now, but I hope you understand what I'm telling you. Use your powers wisely. Make the right choices in life. But to close on today's video, we actually do pick up right now with Terry. And right now you have Terry going through the different files in Jason Wynn's office to hopefully find anything that could tell him why in the world Jason was trying to use Terry as a way to basically get out of dirty business. But on top of that, is there some kind of connection between Jason and Al Simmons? Did Jason kill off Al Simmons? But the thing is though, Jason knows how to cover up his tracks. And so even though you have Terry right now going through every single file, unfortunately, he is unable to find anything at all. But then you have Jason walk into the room to tell Terry that basically he has some new assignment for Terry. And of course, this could be the beginning of Violator's plan to hurt Spawn by using Terry. Okay, so we are going to continue our coverage over Spawn for Spawn Sundays, where we pick up with Spawn number 35 and Spawn number 36. With that being said, when it comes to this two-part storyline, it's all about the idea of Spawn finding out who killed him off 5 years ago. Now, technically, it was Chapel who killed off Spawn 5 years ago, but Chapel only killed off Spawn because he was ordered to kill off Spawn by Jason Wynn. And in this two-part storyline, it is Spawn finding out that Jason Wynn is the reason why he died 5 years ago. And once Spawn finds out, man, let me tell y'all, once Spawn finds out, Spawn goes on one heck of a warpath to get to Jason Wynn and tries to kill off Jason Wynn for basically being the reason why he died 5 years ago. And so here is today's storyline, Spawn going on one heck of a warpath. And so getting into today's storyline, we pick up with Sam and Twitch. Now remember, Sam and Twitch are two police officers that work in New York City. With that being said, we do see the two characters right now having a celebration. And the reason why, because Twitch is able to come back to work after being gone for a good period of time. And the reason why he was gone, because in an earlier story, Twitch got seriously injured. And of course, he was in the hospital. And so he had to stay there for at least a month. But he's finally able to come back to work. Now, once he does come back to work, well, this same section here, it also reminds us that their boss, Sheriff Banks, is actually a crooked cop. And the reason why I'm saying that, because Spawn was able to give Sam and Twitch a file that contained a lot of information about Sheriff Banks. And apparently Banks was working with Billy Kincaid. Now that name should be very familiar. And the reason why, because Billy Kincaid was a child serial killer. And so when it came to Banks, Banks had worked with Jason Wynn to hire Billy Kincaid to kill off a specific child. And the reason why? Because that child belonged to somebody in politics. They were trying to get to that person to basically drop a few things when it came to politics. And so if that information ever gets out, Banks is technically ruined. And so it's Sam and Twitch wondering, okay, when can we finally release the information? Because right now they're trying to figure out who else worked with Banks on hiring Billy Kincaid, because they know that Banks was not working alone. And unfortunately, they have no idea it is Jason Wynn who is the partner to Sheriff Banks. And so we finally jump over to the hero of the book, and that would be Spawn. And when we do, we see Spawn hanging out with Cagliostro. Now, we have no idea about who Cagliostro actually is. The only thing we do know about him is that he knows a lot about heaven and hell, especially about Spawn. And matter of fact, he tells Spawn that Spawn is different from the other Spawns that have been on Earth. And the reason why Cagliostro is saying that, because when it comes to Spawn, Spawn was able to access a new form of his suit so early on in his career as a Spawn, because usually it takes other hell spawns on Earth to access a new form 7 years into their careers as Spawn. But when it comes to Al Simmons, he was able to access this new form so early on in his career. But on top of that, we have to remember what God said a couple videos ago, that when it comes to Spawn, Spawn is not truly evil. Matter of fact, Spawn is a good guy, but on top of that, Spawn is a true believer, meaning that Spawn does believe in God. And so God even says,
Al Simmons is a different kind of Hellspawn. And so when it comes to Cagliostro, he's saying, listen, technically you are doing hell's work, but at the same time, you are bothering them because they feel like you are going away from the path they have chosen for you. And if you keep doing that, that's great for you, but bad for them. But then you have Cagliostro finally say, it's about time for you to know who had actually killed you off 5 years ago. And this is the moment where you have Spawn remember who is the reason why he died 5 years ago. And of course, it was Jason Wynn. And as soon as Spawn finds out it was Jason Wynn who had killed him off 5 years ago, it's Spawn now saying, oh, I need to find Jason Wynn. And when I do, there is going to be hell to pay. Where is Jason Wynn? And when we finally jump over to Jason Wynn, he's calling up Sheriff Banks. And the reason why, because both guys are freaking out. And the reason why, because Sheriff Banks has another copy of the folder that contains a lot of evidence to prove that Jason Wynn and Sheriff Banks had hired Billy Kincaid to kill off a particular child. Now, the copy that Sheriff Banks has is not the same copy that Sam and Twitch have. Another random copy appeared on the desk of Sheriff Banks. Now, when it comes to Jason Wynn, his copy came from Spawn directly. And so right now, it's Jason telling Sheriff Banks, we have to find this Spawn person, because apparently this Spawn person is the reason why the world might find out that sooner or later that we were the ones that hired Billy Kincaid. And if that information gets out, we are technically screwed here. And so you have Jason Wynn tell Sheriff Banks, you better find Spawn very soon. And if you do, you better kill him off, but also figure out how in the world was he able to get so much evidence about us to almost ruin our lives. But we did pick up with Rhonda, and Wanda is the ex-wife of Spawn, because right after he had died, she got remarried to Terry, Spawn's old best friend, and Terry and her have a child together. But when we do pick up with Wanda, she's on the phone with her grandmother. Now at first, this could seem like a regular conversation, but actually it is not. And the reason why, because you have Wanda say that somebody was able to give her a huge donation to her charity. Unfortunately though, she has no idea where the money came from. And now the question is, who in the world did that? But on top of that, could that person be a bad guy that could come back down the road to come after Spawn and her in some kind of way? But we have to jump over to Sam and Twitch. And the reason why, because you have the two guys just chilling at the police department until one of their co-workers tell them, hey, Sheriff Banks and a few other officers just left to go into the territory that's being controlled by Spawn. And we know that's your case right there. So if I was you guys, I would go down there and figure out what in the world is Sheriff Banks doing in Spawn territory. Now we know what he's doing there. He's trying to find Spawn and to hopefully kill off Spawn once and for all to save his career and also Jason Wynn's career as well. And when we do pick up with Sheriff Banks, he's in Spawn's territory. And the reason why I'm saying it's Spawn's territory is because in an earlier video, Spawn did promise the people of this area that they'll be protected by him, no matter what. That includes the homeless people as well. And so because of that, it's Spawn saying, I'll make sure every single person is protected. That is why I say it's Spawn's territory. With that being said, when it comes to Sheriff Banks and also the officers that came with them, they're trying to find Spawn. And matter of fact, they're talking to the homeless people in this area. Because when it comes to the homeless people, they are very close to Spawn. Matter of fact, they're like his best friends, but they know where to find Spawn. But of course, they are not going to tell Sheriff Banks anything at all that could help him find Spawn. Either way, Banks is still able to find the throne of Spawn that Spawn keeps in the middle of his territory. Now, right after he finds Spawn's throne, the rest of the officers disappear just like that. And the reason why? Because Spawn is there, and Spawn wants to have a one-on-one conversation. but you have Sam and Twitch also arrive as well. But the reason why Spawn wants to talk to Banks is about the idea if he did hire Billy Kincaid to kill a child. But on top of that, who is he working with? And so you have Banks so scared of Spawn, he says Jason's Wynn name. He said, Jason Wynn, that is who I am working with. And as soon as Spawn hears that, Spawn remembers, okay, that's right. My main target today is Jason Wynn. And now I'm finding out that Jason Wynn hired a child serial killer to kill a child as a way to get to a political person. Jason Wynn has to go. And so Spawn is even more ticked off at Jason Wynn, and he used his powers as a way to disappear in front of Sam, Twitch, and Banks just like that. And so guys, we see Spawn go on his warpath because you have Spawn head right over to where Jason Wynn's office is at. And when Spawn goes into that office, oh yeah, he finds Jason Wynn. And this is Spawn saying, it's finally time for me to get my revenge against you, to finally get rid of you. And so you have Jason wondering, why in the world is Spawn coming after him for? And matter of fact, you have Spawn give Jason so many different clues that Jason should realize who Spawn is. But unfortunately, Jason still has no idea who Spawn is. He's kind of like, listen, I ruined a lot of different people's lives. And so unless you are able to be a tad bit more specific, unfortunately, I have no idea who you are. But for Spawn, he's kind of like, you know what, who cares? Because I came here to get my revenge. And I'm going to kill you all here tonight. Now, for Jason Wynn though, he's very confident that his security team should be able to handle Spawn. But it's Spawn saying, go ahead, call them in. Their guns, all their weapons, they cannot do nothing to me. You don't realize that I am literally something that you cannot stop. I'm going to make sure you die tonight. And when you die, you are going to hell. Except that is when you have a bunch of security guards walk into the room. But when they do, they're being led by Terry, Spawn's best friend. And let's not forget, guys, Spawn still believed in Terry. Spawn believed that Terry was a good person. And matter of fact, Spawn has saved Terry's life so many times as Spawn, he believed that him and Terry were technically on the same side. But right now, it shows that Terry is really more on Jason Wynn's side rather than Spawn's side. He even says, put Jason Wynn down. If you don't, I will tell my guys to blow your head off. And so when we jump into Spawn number 36, the first half of this book is really more Spawn dealing with Jason Wynn, but also trying to figure out what in the world is going on with Terry. Because Spawn has saved Terry so many times. And so unfortunately, when he looks up, he sees Terry holding a gun towards his head. And matter of fact, you have a bunch of other security guards also holding guns towards Spawn's head. Now Spawn knows he'll survive no matter what. It's just the idea of Terry right now portraying him. The idea of Terry protecting Jason Wynn, the guy who is responsible for his death. Now Terry has no idea that Jason Wynn is the reason why Spawn died 5 years ago. And on top of that, Terry has no idea that Spawn is Al Simmons. Either way, for Spawn, he still feels betrayed because he had protected Terry so many times in earlier books. Either way, Spawn's main goal is to get rid of Jason Wynn. Now, you do have the guards shoot at Spawn, and with that happening, Jason Wynn is able to get away from Spawn, and Spawn is able to get away from the guards. But it does lead into an entire chase, and every single time Spawn is able to get close to Jason Wynn gets farther away from Spawn. Now Spawn realized there's too much heat right now around the building. You have guys with guns, you got Terry, you have Jason Wynn, you have a helicopter out there right now preparing to blow up the entire building to kill off Spawn. And so Spawn realized he has no other choice but to go ahead and go away for now and come back later to get Jason Wynn. And so when you have the chopper shoot a missile at the top of the building to hope to kill off Spawn, Spawn was able to get away from that missile, and of course he leaves for now, but he is plotting to come back and get his revenge against Jason Wynn. But then we jump over to Sam and Twitch, and when we do, is Sam right now ticked off. And the reason why he's ticked off because him and Twitch hand the file they had that had so much evidence to prove that Sheriff Banks is a crooked cop. They hand that file over to the higher ups to see if they're able to finally get rid of Sheriff Banks, except all the different charges were dropped. That this man is clear. There are no crimes committed by this guy at all. And Sam cannot believe that. But that shows that when it comes to Banks and also Jason Wynn, they have guys out there protecting them no matter what. And so whoever is protecting Sheriff Banks, they were able to get every single charge dropped just like that. And you have Banks going to Sam and saying, "You tried to get rid of me, but unfortunately you couldn't do that. Don't you realize I have guardian angels all over the place? There's no way you'll be able to get rid of me." But then you have Twitch step in and say, "Back off, because you don't realize I made a copy of every single thing in that file, and I still have the ability to give that file over to the media. And I'm gonna tell you right now, if the media finds out, you are definitely screwed there. And so I was you, I will back off and not try to do anything at all to us." And you have Sheriff Banks agree that it's probably best for him to back off for the time being and find a different way to deal with Sam and Twitch. But we have to jump back over to Jason Wynn. And when we do, it's Jason in the hospital trying to recover from his wounds that he received from Spawn. Now, while he's trying to do that, he is confronted by a few guys who seem to be also in the same agency that Jason Wynn is in, but they're higher ups. And right now, they're telling Jason that he is very lucky that they were able to sweep more things under the rug to protect him, to clear his name. But unfortunately, he has run out of favors, meaning that they're going to begin the process of moving away from him. And so if Jason is finally caught by the media, Spawn, or the police, unfortunately, he will fall by himself. He will not be able to bring anybody else down with him. And these guys say, "Do not even try to bring us down with you, because it's your fault that you keep failing over and over and over again." And so after they leave, you then have Jason be confronted by Violator. And let's not forget, at the end of our last video, Jason made a deal with Violator to work together to get rid of Spawn, to hurt Spawn in so many different ways. And so of course, it's right now him saying, "Hey Jason, did you forget that you and I made a deal with one another? Because I've been doing favors for you, but unfortunately you have not been living to your end of the bargain. And so let me remind you, we are going to work together. And if we do, I can keep doing you favors, but at the same time, you have to help me out, which means that sooner or later, you're gonna have to help me get rid of Spawn or her Spawn in some kind of way. So let's not forget that you and I are technically partners. Bye." But to wrap up today's video, you have Spawn do what I say one of the craziest things to do to anybody in the world. You have Spawn go and find Wanda. He goes to her house. And let's not forget, the last time he saw Wanda, she was scared of him because she was going to go to him and thank him for saving Terry, except she got caught by a bunch of thugs. And when she was caught by those thugs, Spawn did save her, but Spawn did literally brutally beat down on those thugs. And because of that, she has now been scared of Spawn ever since. And so when he reappears in her house like, "Hey Wanda, it's me, Spawn," she's all like, "Bro, this is not okay. This is not okay at all. And she's scared out of her mind. But it's Spawn coming to her and saying, the reason why I'm here is because you have to know that you cannot trust Terry, that Terry is not a good person. Now for her, she is very confused on what in the world this man is actually talking about. But again, he's kind of like, I watched Terry betray me and try to protect Jason Wynn. How in the world can you sit there and say he is a good person? You and I both know that he is not a good person. But again, she doesn't care because right now, all she's having is flashbacks of the last time she saw Spawn brutally beat down on those thugs. And so she is begging him to leave her house. Just leave and get out. And he does. But when he goes back home, he's now once again heartbroken because now he believes that Terry is not a good person. But on top of that, Wanda is so scared of him that she does not even want to listen to him. Now also, something else. Spawn tries to tell her that he is Al Simmons, but she takes that as a way of Spawn trying to scare her, trying to torture her. Because again, she believes that her husband is dead. She does not believe in ghosts and demons and stuff like that. And so when Spawn says, no, it's me, Al, she's even more scared. Like, why are you doing this? Why are you lying to me? Why are you trying to torture me for? And so he has no choice but to leave. And so when he leaves, he's now alone once again. And he's so sad because he's trying to tell her, it's me, it's Al, I'm back, I'm not dead anymore. But unfortunately, she's so scared of him, she can't even listen to him. And so to continue our coverage over Spawn for Spawn Sundays, we do pick up with Spawn number 40 and Spawn number 41. Now, with that being said, this is a two-part storyline where we're going to see a tad bit more of a newer character that was just introduced in our last video known as Cygor. But at the same time, we're also going to see another character come back and try their best to get revenge against Spawn. Because Spawn technically did beat them down, like literally beat them down. And so of course they're trying to get their revenge. With that being said, when we do jump into Spawn number 40, we pick up with Spawn coming back home to his area and Spawn's territory. Now, the reason why I said Spawn territory because in the earlier parts of Spawn, Spawn claimed an area of New York as his own, saying that this area belongs to him and he'll do his best to protect all the people in this area. Except when he comes back home to his area to sit on his throne, well, this is a Spawn that's not really big on being a hero, but more trying to figure out how to solve all the different problems he has at the moment. Because right now, Spawn is dealing with a lot. He has Jason Wynn, the guy who he thought got him killed 5 years ago, to only find out that Jason Wynn is working for somebody else that wanted Al to die 5 years ago. But on top of that, he's now wondering if Terry is good or bad because at first he believed that Terry, his best friend, is still a good guy, but who's now working for Jason Wynn and not knowing why Terry is working for Jason Wynn. But then there's also Wanda, his ex-wife, who's scared of him because she watched him fight against thugs, and what he did to those thugs was very, very violent. But either way, she's now scared of him, and he's trying to figure out how to solve all these different kinds of problems that he is going through. Now, while you have Spawn sit on his throne, well, then out of nowhere, he's then ambushed by a trap that was actually set on his chair. And so as soon as Spawn sat in his chair, a few moments later, the trap goes off and now trapping Spawn to his chair and shocking him until he's completely knocked out. Now, we are not told who was behind this master plan at first, because we are seeing the minions who work for the main bad guy that is coming back to get revenge against Spawn move in and begin the process of trying to move him over to their boss's base. And they move fast. They basically say, hey, we have to get him off the chair, into a box, into a truck, and drive over to where our boss's base is at. And matter of fact, they do that in a few pages. And so just like that, Spawn has now been captured.
But we jump over to Terry and Wanda. Now, when we do, they're on the phone talking to one another. And matter of fact, you have Terry and Wanda talking about the idea of trying to bring down Jason Wynn. And that is why I say that when it comes to Spawn, Spawn has no idea that Terry is on his side and both characters are trying to bring down Jason Wynn in different ways. Now, for Terry, it's more of the legal way. For Spawn, it's more of the let's go ahead and kill him and move on with our days. Either way right now, you have Terry and Wanda wondering what should be their next move. Because right now, they're very confused on how to take down Jason Wynn. But on top of that, they're wondering who Spawn is. Now, in an earlier video, Spawn did tell Wanda it was him, Al Simmons. But she did not believe him because of the way he looked. But on top of that, Al died 5 years ago, and with that being said, she does not believe in ghosts. And so when Spawn said, "It's me, Al Simmons," she just freaked out and ran away. And so you have Spawn right now kind of being part of their conversation by saying, hey, you know what? Wanda and Terry need to figure out who in the world Spawn truly is, but at the same time, they're still thinking about how to take down Jason Wynn. We then jump over to a small town that's honestly in the middle of nowhere, but we do see the guys of the small town going into the forest, and the reason why, because they're going hunting. Now, it's not like them going hunting for deers or rabbits, none of that. They're actually going to the forest to hunt down a creature, and the reason why, because they keep finding dead bodies left and right. Now, these dead bodies are not humans, they're animals. It's just the way the dead bodies have been left behind that's causing a lot of concerns. And so that is why you have these guys going into the forest to see what in the world is going on. Now, when they do go inside the forest, they are thinking they're going to find Bigfoot. Instead, what they find is Cygor. And we saw Cygor at the end of our last video. And when it comes to Cygor, Cygor was another military experiment. See, when it comes to Cygor, he was made by the military to give a gorilla cybernetic body parts. But on top of that, they wanted to modify the brain, where the brain is actually 80% human and 20% gorilla. Except what they got was 50-50, and that is a huge problem. And so right now you have a gorilla that's not thinking straight and just going crazy in this forest. Now, luckily for them, the gorilla has not gone out of its way to attack humans. But at the same time though, if they do attack the gorilla, well, Cygor will kill them then as a way to protect itself. And so now we know that Cygor is on the loose and most likely going to head over towards where Spawn is at. But we do jump over to Spawn. And when we do, he does wake up in some kind of laboratory. Now, when he does wake up in this laboratory, he is confronted by the bad guy of today's storyline, and that would be Curse. Now, we saw Curse in one of our previous videos, but when it comes to Curse, he's actually somebody that believes that he is doing God's work, that God has sent him to Earth to basically get rid of evil things on the earth. Except God never talked to Curse at all. And so for Curse, he believed that he must do these different extreme things to hopefully one day hear God's word, but at the same time get powers from God as well. And so that is why his body is so modified, because he did some extreme things hoping that sooner or later God would talk to him, but God would also give him powers. Now, the last time we saw Curse got his butt whooped by Spawn. I mean, literally, Spawn whooped Curse's butt like no other. And so we were left to believe that maybe Curse would never come back. But of course, he did come back, because right now he is trying to get revenge against Spawn. Except right now, he is dissecting Spawn to learn more about him. And so Spawn realized that his body parts have been cut up and contained in different containers, because this is Curse saying, I am going to study you, learn more about you. But then once I'm done learning about you, then I'll kill you off. And then I will finally win. But at the same time, when I kill you off and learn everything about you, God will love everything I have to tell him. And then he will finally be happy with me. And really, this ties into more than just doing God's work. That in reality, it's all about the idea that there is going to be a war between good and evil, heaven and hell. And right now, it's Curse saying, I have to study you so that heaven will be able to win that big war when it comes down to it. Because right now, you have both sides trying to build up their forces, spawns, anti-spawns, and the list goes on and on and on. And so with all these new different things coming left and right, it really shows that war is coming very soon between heaven and hell. And only one side can truly win that war. And so when it comes to Curse, he's saying, I'm trying to study you so that I'll be able to help the forces of heaven actually stop hell and defeat hell and send hell packing. And so that is really the main reason why he is dissecting Spawn at the moment. We finally check in with Jason Wynn, and when we do, it's really more the story reminding us that Jason Wynn is the guy who hired Chapel to kill off Al Simmons. Now, originally, we thought that he was the guy who wanted Al dead, but we now know that somebody else had ordered Jason to basically kill off Al Simmons. The question is right now, who? Either way, when it comes to Jason Wynn, he's meeting up with Violator because these two characters are working together to kill off Spawn or to hurt Spawn in a different kind of way. And what I mean by that is to hurt Spawn, why not go after his loved ones? And matter of fact, you have Violator say, hey, Jason, we promised to work together, and I told you to go after these people because if you do, it'll hurt Spawn a lot. You need to go after Terry, Wanda's grandmother, their daughter, like these people right here. If you are able to hurt them in some kind of way, it hurts Spawn as well. And so you have Jason tell Violator, just give me a little bit more time. And don't worry, your master plan will come together to hurt Spawn. And getting back over to Cyborg, really, this section is more of just saying, hey, here are a few pages to show off Cyborg, to show you how cool he is. And matter of fact, he might come back again down the road to fight against Spawn. Because in this entire storyline, these two characters do not meet at all. And so really, it's just more of saying Cyborg is going to be a major player for a later story down the road. But either way, you do have the town folks of this area still trying to hunt him down. And unfortunately, they're having a hard time doing that. I mean, guys, it's a gorilla that has cybernetic body parts. Even if you do find it, what in the world are you going to do? It is easily able to kill you guys off quickly. But of course, these guys are all like, we got to protect our town. So let's find this beast and hopefully shut it down before we all killed off by it. I'm kind of like, dude, y'all are dumb. But when we jump back over to Spawn, this begins the process of wrapping up today's story. Because right now, you have Spawn trying to move the different body parts that were cut off from him. And so while Curse is outside the laboratory, Spawn's kind of like, okay, this is my chance to break free and take down Curse. I have to control the different body parts, which he does. Except when you have Curse walk right back into the laboratory, it's too late. Spawn was able to begin the process of breaking free, which then leads into another battle between these two characters. Now, here's the thing, because when it comes to Curse, the last time he fought against Spawn, Spawn whooped his butt. Like I said, Spawn whooped his butt. And so really, Curse does not stand a chance at all. This is not a fair battle, and Curse knows that, but Curse has a backup plan. He says, listen, I had one thing on my mind, which is to bring you down, but I always said to myself, do not start a war unless you are willing to die for it. And so this is him saying, I am going to die for God's work, to make sure that I am able to at least defeat one Hellspawn. I'll make sure I die along with you. And so right when Spawn is about to kill off Curse, well, Spawn comes to find out that Curse has the entire building rigged to blow up. And right when you think Curse is going to die by the hands of Spawn, well, Curse says, nope, he hits the trigger and the entire building blows up. And so we're left to believe that Spawn is now dead, and so is Curse. But with that being said, okay, so getting back into our coverage over Spawn for Spawn Sundays, today's video is really going to wrap up the entire storyline that deals with Sheriff Banks. Now remember, when it comes to Sheriff Banks, of course, being the person in charge of the police department, we found out that he was working with Jason Wynn, one of the many guys who was responsible for the death of Al Simmons. When it comes to Banks, though, he was actually innocent when it comes to that part over there. But when it comes to Banks and Jason Wynn, they had worked together to hire a serial killer known as Billy Kincaid. Now, Billy Kincaid, besides being a serial killer, he was a child serial killer. And they hired him to go after one politician's daughter to kill her off as a way to get to the politician, to make sure that he knows his actual place. Now, that was all hush hush until Spawn was able to gather enough evidence to prove that Jason Wynn and Banks have been working together. And you had Spawn hand over that file to Sam and Twitch, two police officers who has been trying to get rid of their boss, Banks. And so today's video is going to wrap up Banks and kind of say he's taken care of now. We must move on to a new situation going on for our characters in the Spawn universe. And when it comes to this video, you're going to notice that this video is going to heavily focus on Sam and Twitch, the two police officers who are trying to bring down Sheriff Banks. But at the same time, we're going to get small updates on Spawn here and there, but those updates are a way to say, don't worry, Spawn is still going to be around. But when it comes to Spawn, we have to remember, at the end of our last video, he fought against Curse. And when it came to him fighting against Curse, Curse was losing and thought it'd be a great idea to just blow up the entire building they were in. And we were left to believe that Spawn had died. Either way, we already knew Spawn did not die. And so, matter of fact, with our first update, we see Spawn being able to get out of that explosion, but also have all his body parts back together again. Because in that last video, we also saw Curse trying to dissect Spawn to learn more about how his body works. But when it comes to this storyline, Spawn is okay and his body has been reconnected. Matter of fact, when it comes to the first chapter of this storyline, you are going to see Spawn hanging out with a young boy. And this young boy is going to give us our usual nerd trope. What I mean by that is, hey, if you have a nerd in the story, that means 1, he has no friends, 2, he's super smart, 3, he does a whole lot of nerdy things, 4, the only person at a school that likes him is a teacher, and 5, he has a crush on a girl, but unfortunately he's too scared to talk to her, and so she has no idea that he even exists. Those 5 things kind of give you your usual nerdy trope you see in all kinds of stories, all different kinds of stories. And so for this one, once again, you have all 5 things because we see him trying to get away from his bullies to go to his secret hideout where he does go and sit down and read his comics. But once he's able to go there, he runs into Spawn, who's just trying to hide there to heal up after dealing with Curse. And this leads into the nerd being like, oh my God, you are a superhero. Just by looking at Spawn saying, oh my gosh, you are a superhero, and trying to figure out his origin story for Spawn. And so this also is used to kind of remind fans, this is the actual origin of Spawn. But going through his origin, you didn't have the young boy ask Spawn, hey, do you know anything about girls? Because he is going to ask Spawn for advice when it comes to asking out a girl. But as soon as he asks Spawn that question, Spawn remembers his ex-wife, Wanda. And when Wanda's name is mentioned, we do get a whole section that is dedicated to her to kind of remind us what is happening with the character at this point in time in Spawn comics. And matter of fact, it's just 3 things. 1, Wanda is trying to figure out who is Spawn really. Even though Al came to her and said, it's me, Al, she does not believe that because Al died 5 years ago, her first husband. Number 2, she got a huge donation for her charity. The problem is she has no idea where that money came from. And so she's wondering if the money is actually legal. Now, number 3 is a brand new thing. It's her getting sick out of nowhere. And you would think, okay, that's weird. Why is that so important? Well, we have to remember that Violator is working with Jason Wynn to go after the people that Spawn cares for a lot, which is Wanda, Terry, Wanda's grandmother, and Wanda's baby. And so with those 4 people, it's Violator and Jason saying, we are going to go after them. And so with Wanda being sick, this could mean, hey, they may have gotten to her somehow. We have no idea how though. We also get reminded of another character we saw in our last video, our last couple videos, and that would be Cygor. Now, Cygor is your cybernetic gorilla. Matter of fact, when it comes to Cygor, he was a gorilla that was given over to the military so that they will be able to turn the gorilla into a military weapon by giving him cybernetic body parts. But on top of that, they wanted to make sure that the brain of this cyber gorilla was 80% human and 20% gorilla. Unfortunately, they got 50-50. And so when it comes to Cygor, he's very aggressive, very wild, because he has more gorilla brain than they actually planned. Now, he got loose and he's heading towards New York, which means that sooner or later, we're going to see him and Spawn fight against one another. But shifting our focus back to Sam and Twitch, we see them breaking into Sheriff Banks' office after hours to hopefully find more evidence that could bring him down. Luckily for them, they ran into another cop who just got fired. And apparently this cop got fired because he was also trying to find anything that could bring down Sheriff Banks. Once he was caught and got fired, no one realized that Homeboy made copies of keys for the entire building. Also a key that leads into Sheriff Banks' office. And so he was able to give his copy over to Sam and Twitch so that they're able to break into Banks' office and to find more evidence to bring down Banks. But once they're able to collect enough evidence, now their main goal is to use that evidence as a way to bring Banks down. But they realize they can't go to the CIA. They can't go to any big time government office because they're afraid this could literally be swept under the rug. And the question is now, what can they do? Who can they go to hopefully bring down Banks? And if you're wondering, hey, what happened to Spawn and the young boy who has the fear of his bullies? Don't worry, it gets wrapped up very quickly. What happens is that you have the young boy go confront his bullies. Once he does that, you then have Spawn appear as this dangerous monster who could hurt them all. But it comes down to the young boy being the only one who could stop Spawn from hurting them. And once he's able to stop Spawn, Spawn leaves, and the young boys, the young bullies, they go ahead and run home to their parents and tell their parents what just happened. And now the young boy looks like a hero because he stopped the bad monster, even though he did not. And so that entire plot line wraps up just like that. But once we get into the chapter that really does focus a lot on Sam and Twitch, well, we see them heading towards work, thinking that it's going to be just another regular day, but at the same time, they're trying to figure out how in the world they're going to bring down Sheriff Banks. Except when they arrive at work and trying to park their car, the police officer who controls the parking lot says, unfortunately, you are not allowed to park here anymore. Matter of fact, I was told to go ahead and take away your parking badges. You have been let go. Now for Sam and Twitch, they're wondering, what do you mean by that? Because we weren't told that we were fired. So of course, we don't believe you when you say that we have been fired. But again, the officer in charge of the parking lot says, no, you have been fired. And so Sam and Twitch has to park somewhere else and walk to the police department to hopefully get some answers on what in the world is going on with their jobs. And once they're able to get inside, they are confronted by Sheriff Banks. And when they are, you have Banks tell them, you have been fired. They're wondering, what do you mean by fired? And this is him saying, let's not forget what you guys did to me a couple stories ago, which was the idea. They were able to bring in the CIA to say, hey, this guy right here, Banks, is crooked. You should look into him. And when it came to the CIA, well, they did nothing at all. Matter of fact, they went ahead and just swept it under the rug and moved on with their days. And Banks was able to keep his job. And so because of that is him saying, I am going to retaliate against what you did to me by going ahead and firing you. Now for Sam and Twitch, they're really bothered by this, but at the same time, they're not. And what I mean by that is they realize that sooner or later he would get them fired, but they still have the file. And their main goal was to use the file as a way to get back at him, to get rid of him. And so when he says, hey, you're fired, they're like, that's okay. You may fire us, but let's not forget, we still have the file and we can go to the media as a way to bring you down. And then once it gets out, it'll look bad for you, but also anybody else who is connected to you. Now, just in case you're wondering, hey, Fresh, what is happening with Spawn? Well, you have Spawn just resting. He is confronted by different kind of animals that move in the night, but those animals are not really important. What's really more important is that you have Spawn having flashbacks to the times where he was with Wanda, and he remembered that a lot of times his work would take him away from her. So he was unable to actually spend time with her like he always wanted to. And so with that happening, he's having a flashback to one of her birthdays. He missed that birthday, but he was able to make it up by giving her a puppy. So yes, this is your update on what is happening with Spawn right now in this chapter, but we jump back over to Sam and Twitch. And when we do, it's Sam and Twitch meeting up with some reporter who works for a big time newspaper. Matter of fact, when it comes to this big time newspaper, apparently at this point, they're no longer big time. They have been declining for a while, and they're trying to get back on top again. But with a story like this, for sure, they will be able to get back on top. Now, when it comes to this reporter, what he is hearing, what he is seeing, he's having a hard time believing that he may be able to pull this off. Matter of fact, he's very scared about the idea of the CIA or anyone else from different branches of the government might try to come at him and try to stop him from releasing this story. And so he tells Sam and Twitch, he'll try his best, but unfortunately, they may not get anything at all. But it's Sam and Twitch saying, we have no choice. We lost our jobs. We have family we got to support. At the same time, we got to bring down Banks for all the crimes that he has committed. And once you have the reporter being able to get back to his office building to show his boss what he was able to get from Sam and Twitch, his boss is excited. You are talking about the idea of bringing down someone like the sheriff of the police department who hired a child serial killer to kill off a political person's child. That is huge. That is crazy. Yeah, you know what? Let's go ahead and publish this. Here is the thing. There are always leaks when it comes to different kinds of big time stories across the world. And so when it came to this one, there were a lot of leaks. And one of those leaks was able to get back to Jason Wynn. And you had Jason make a few phone calls to change everything. Where now it's just Sheriff Banks going down by himself. There's no way that Jason's name will be mentioned in the story that comes out the next day. So Jason had just made himself an innocent man. But unfortunately for Sheriff Banks, no, not an innocent man. He'll go down by himself. And as soon as that story has been published, word gets out fast. Word gets out so fast, bam, there goes Banks' career completely. You have folks moving in to arrest him, to bring him in for the crimes that he has committed. The public is outside his actual police department building, wanting him to come out to do, well, of course, some crazy things to him. But again, he is on his own. His wife is trying to call him to ask her what in the world is going on. But unfortunately, he tells his assistant, do not let her call me again. Like, do not give me that phone. I don't want to talk to her. My life is ruined. My career is ruined. Everything is ruined for what I did. And the way the story ends, like I said, the way the story ends is one heck of a crazy note. Because as soon as they go into his office to arrest him, he kills himself. Gets a gun, pow, he's dead. Okay, so we are going to continue our coverage over Spawn for Spawn Sundays, where we pick up with Spawn number 44 and Spawn number 45. And this is another two-part storyline where we see Spawn killing an angel. Yeah, you heard that right. So let me explain, because with Angela out of the way, you now have other angels wanting to go after Spawn, because if they do kill him off, well, it'll be a high score, a very high ranking kill. But on top of that, heaven and hell are enemies. And so with Spawn being out there and him being a hell spawn, of course you have angels wanting to go out there and hunt him down. Now we do pick up with a new angel, and her name is Tiffany. And with Tiffany around, you have Tiffany saying, listen, with Angela out of the way, I can now be the best one, the best angel out of all of us. And we kind of find out that Tiffany is a tad bit jealous of Angela, because Tiffany did have the higher scores, the better grades, but unfortunately, Angela got all the fame. And so this is Tiffany saying, I'm going to do the one thing she did not do, which is kill off Spawn, Al Simmons. And once she does that, she believes all the fame Angela had will go to her. Now, when it comes to Tiffany, she did not get permission to go out into Earth and hunt down Spawn. But she says, who cares? Because I'm doing God's work, but at the same time, I'm cleaning up Angela mistakes. We then jump over to Spawn, and we see Spawn still recovering after his latest battle against Curse. Because remember, when it came to Curse, Curse was this character who believed that he was doing God's work. That's all you need to know. But when it came to Curse, he grabbed Spawn and began to dissect Spawn, thinking that he'll learn more about Spawn and how Spawn bodies work. And once he learned everything about Spawn, he'll be able to kill off Hell Spawns left and right, like Spawn. Except Spawn was able to break free and kill off Curse. Unfortunately though, Spawn had to use a lot of energy to put his body together, but his suit is also kind of traumatized because what they had went through thanks to Curse. And so he's trying to regain all the energy that he had to use to put his body back together, but to also stop Curse as well. Unfortunately, Tiffany is on her way to hunt Spawn down, to kill him off. We didn't get an update on Sam and Twitch. Now remember, Sam and Twitch are two cops, or they were two cops for the NYPD. Unfortunately, they were trying to bring down their boss, Sheriff Banks, and they were able to actually do it, except before they did that, well, they got fired by him. And so when he killed himself, once all the evidence came out that he was a crooked person, unfortunately, they're still out of a job. And when it comes to Twitch, he's freaking out because he has a wife and kids to take care of. And he's wondering how long will the money last until he is unable to actually take care of his family. Now for Sam, it's more of, hey, you know what? It is what it is. I'm going to sit here, eat my pizza, eat my food. My place is messy, whatever. But I know sooner or later I'll get something. They're both depressed. It's just that they're going at it in different kinds of ways. But getting back over to Spawn, while you have Spawn still trying to recover after his latest battle against Curse, well, like I said earlier, Tiffany does appear and she is ready to kill Homeboy off. Like I said, she is ready to kill Homeboy off. Now, this is a mixture of you know what, I want to be better than Angela, but at the same time, I want to kill off Spawn, this hell creature, because hell is our mere enemies. And so she's going at it when it comes to fighting against Spawn. And Spawn has no idea what in the world is going on, because the last angel he met was Angela. And technically, they were on good terms when he last saw her. Not the greatest terms, but like, hey, you know what, we'll be okay for now. And so when it comes to Tiffany, he's all like, great, another angel is after me and I have no idea where this could go because I got lucky with the last one, Angela. This one right here, I don't think I'll get that lucky. And matter of fact, homeboy is right because she is here to kill him off. We did pick up with Violator. Now remember, Violator was created alongside with Spawn by one person, Malbolgia. And technically, when it comes to Violator, he is used by Malbolgia as a way to kind of train Hellspawns when they're on Earth. Now, when it comes to Violator, he does not like Al Simmons at all. And so besides trying to actually train Spawn, he's trying to kill off Spawn and just go ahead and send him back to hell. Now, when it comes to Violator, he loves to torture Spawn, and he has a new way of doing it. Why not go after the people that he cares for the most? That will be Wanda, his ex-wife, Terry, her husband, but also his best friend, and Wanda's grandmother, and Wanda's and Terry's child. He's trying to find different ways to hurt Spawn, and technically, he's finding them. But here's the thing, because when it comes to Violator, recently he had teamed up with Jason Wynn, the bad guy who had killed off Spawn 5 years ago. And so now the two of them are working together to go after the loved ones of Spawn. And the question is, what is Jason doing to the loved ones as a way to affect Spawn? But to go ahead and wrap up just the first chapter of the storyline, getting back over to Tiffany, but also Spawn, Tiffany's main goal is to go ahead and just cut off the head of Spawn. Because once she does that, well, you know what? That means Spawn will be dead. He'll be killed off and the day will be saved for the angels. And so with Spawn still trying to recover the energy that he had lost thanks to Curse, it seems like she might be able to actually pull it off and cut off his head. And we could have a dead Spawn here very soon. And so when we jump into the final chapter for today's storyline, well, we pick up with Tiffany getting ready to cut off Spawn's head. And matter of fact, she does it. And she believes that, okay, I killed off Spawn. I actually won. I did something that Angela could not do. Well, of course we all know he is the hero of the book. There's no way homeboy is going to die that easily in a two-part storyline like this. And so you have Spawn kind of like, nope, I tricked you. I made you believe that you had cut off my head. In reality, you did nothing to me at all. And so the battle continues on. And while you have the battle continue on, this is where you have Spawn begin to bounce back. He's back at full strength where he is able to fight back against Tiffany, and it's going to lead to her death. But before we are able to see the end of that battle there, we have to jump back over to Sam and Twitch just real quickly. And the reason why, because you have Twitch really showing that he is very worried about the idea of not being able to support his wife and kids. And honestly, I don't blame him because, you know, you're trying to be that supporting husband, making sure that your family is taken care of, and you just lost your job, and your job was a source of money that was coming into the household. And so for Twitch, he is very worried about what could happen to his family. And this is where you see Sam being kind of like that big brother, that best friend, because you have Sam say, listen, I was able to put some money on the side to give you right now to kind of help pay your bills. But what I want to do with you is to open up our own detective agency, meaning that we do not work for anybody but ourselves. You and I will be partners again, and we'll solve cases on our own without the idea of having a boss over us and trying to use us in bad ways. And this is a way for them to kind of continue to be able to bring some money in. But getting back over to Spawn, who's fighting against Tiffany, their fight does go back and forth for a few pages. Now, here's the thing, because while you have Spawn and Tiffany fighting against one another, Spawn gets a new power, and that is the Black Dispersal. And when it comes to the Black Dispersal, Spawn is able to summon the dark creatures of the night, and he had marked Tiffany. And so while the two characters were fighting against each other, well, Tiffany got seriously injured to the point where she is unable to fight back against the creatures of the night. And so the young angel is killed off. She is eaten alive by wolves, bears, and snakes. Just like that, Spawn was able to deal with his new angel problem and go on with his life. But we have to jump over to Wanda because she's at the doctor, because in our last video she got a bad cough and she was wondering if she was getting sick. Now we were wondering if Jason Wynn and Violator had did something to her as a way to get to Spawn. And so she may be okay or like not that sick, but later on it could get very serious. Now the doctor tells her, yeah, you know what, you do have a bad cough, your throat is sore, you could have some kind of infection, don't worry, I'll give you some medicine and everything is going to be a-okay. But when it comes to Terry, it is completely different. Now remember, Terry is the old best friend of Al Simmons, but now he's married to Wanda, Al Simmons' ex-wife. But when it comes to Terry, recently, he has been trying his best to bring down Jason Wynn, the bad guy who killed off Al Simmons 5 years ago. Now, Terry has no idea that Jason had killed off Al Simmons, but when it comes to Terry, he realized that Jason is up to something. And so Terry had transferred over to Jason's department to hopefully bring him down, to find some evidence to bring him down. But just like Wanda, Terry has also been coughing, except his cough is a whole lot worse. And so we're left to believe that sooner or later, something big and serious is going to happen to Terry because of Violator, but also because of Jason Wynn. The ending of this book is really more of Spawn being able to get back to Rat City, or of course his area of New York. And once he does arrive, he is confronted by Cagliostro, and you have Cog tell him one more time that he needs to train his costume, because Spawn costume is alive. It is a symbiote, but at the same time, they have to work together, but Spawn has to be the master, not just the host. And that has been a very huge problem for Spawn recently. But on top of that, thanks to Curse dissecting both Spawn and his suit, well, the suit has gone through a very traumatized moment, and so it's going crazy and controlling Spawn. And so you had Cog say, sooner or later, you are going to have to be the master, because if you don't become the master, it will take over you, and that could lead to more problems down the road. And this is where, okay, so getting back into Spawn for Spawn Sundays, we pick up with Spawn number 46 and Spawn number 47. Yes, another two-part storyline. Guys, don't worry. Sooner or later, we're going to be able to dive into deeper, longer stories. For right now, just a two-part books. Either way, when it comes to Spawn number 46, we actually pick up with a character known as Johnny Torrenzo. And when it comes to Johnny Torrenzo, he does seem like your regular guy, your regular, husband / father. He's having a good night with his family, except that is the moment where he is confronted by guys who work for Vito Gravano. Now, Vito Gravano is an older character at this point in Spawn comics. We saw him in the early days, and he is a mafia boss in New York, and Spawn had been dealing with him off and on throughout the entire Spawn run. But it has been a very long time since we saw this character. Now, the reason why Vito is sending a bunch of guys over to Johnny, because Johnny has been stealing money from Vito, and that is a huge no-no. And so Vito had to make Johnny become an example. If you steal from him, you gotta die. And so of course, Johnny was killed off right outside his own house. So his wife had to hear the gunshot, run out, and find the body of her dead husband. Literally messed up. Now, you also have Vito saying that, listen, even though Johnny did steal from me, I'm going to make sure that he has a proper bearing and make sure that his wife and child will be okay. Except that is the moment where he does get a call from his boss. Yes, that's right. Vito is the boss of this area of New York, but the boss got a boss, and that will be Mr. Bartino. Now, we haven't met Mr. Bartino just yet, but the way the phone call goes, you can tell that Vito is very scared of Bartino, meaning that sooner or later, once he does appear, it could lead to more problems for Vito, but also for Spawn as well. But checking up on Spawn, we see him now back in New York, but he's still trying to recover from his last battle against Curse. Now at this point, we're like 8 issues since the last battle, or really 6 issues since his last battle against Curse. But Curse did do a number on Spawn. Let's not forget, Curse tried to dissect Spawn to hopefully learn more about Spawn, to hopefully learn more about how Hellspawns work, because Curse believed that he was doing God's work. In reality, he wasn't. Either way, right now, it's Spawn trying to reclaim control over his suit, the symbiote suit, because his suit is alive, but technically it's taking over his body, and sooner or later, one of the two is gonna win. And so Spawn is trying his best to control the suit, but at the same time, he still needs to recover after his battle against Curse. And so what he's doing right now is he's absorbing the evilness of different kind of creatures that don't touch the light. So like rats, worms, they're the creatures of the night, the creatures of the dark, and he's trying to absorb their evil to hopefully fix his injuries and then be able to control his suit. But then we pick up with Wanda and Terry. Now, Wanda and Terry are very important in Spawn comics. Wanda is the ex-wife of Spawn, and Terry is the old best friend of Spawn. And the two of them got married not right after, but a couple years after Spawn had died 5 years ago. Either way, when it came to Wanda and Terry in our last videos, they got sick, and we're left to believe that this is being done by Jason Wynn. Because let's not forget, Jason was the guy who killed off Spawn, but at the same time, Jason is working with Violator, a demon creature from hell, and they're trying to go after the loved ones of Spawn. And so recently, both Wanda and Terry have been coughing a lot. Now, when it comes to Wanda, she's okay. When it comes to Terry, he's getting worse and worse. And matter of fact, he had to leave work early to come home and get some rest. And so we're left to believe that Terry could possibly die down the road, or at least just have some huge infection or some virus that was given to him by Jason Wynn. But then we pick up with some random characters. Now, these random characters are not going to be important at all. Well, somewhat, because these two guys, they work for Vito. They're like top in the ranking of his organization of crime. The problem is each of these guys are killed off just like that. And you're left to believe, okay, could this be Spawn? Because Spawn is right now having a hard time controlling his suit. But in reality, it's not Spawn. It's somebody else coming here to New York to hopefully get revenge against Vito, but at the same time hoping that Spawn will help them get revenge against Vito for what he has done to their lives. Either way, the two guys that work for Vito, they were killed off just like that. Bam, bam. And that right there concerns Vito a lot. We then pick up with Spawn and Cagliostro, where you have Cagliostro telling Spawn two things. Now, when it comes to Cagliostro, we still have no idea what the origin of this character is at all. We still have no idea. But he does tell Spawn two different things. The first is that Tiffany is not dead. And Tiffany was the bad guy in our last video, who was another angel trying to come after Spawn, because she was very upset about the idea that Angela was not able to kill off Spawn, but on top of that, let Spawn go. And she hated Angela a lot. Either way, when Tiffany tried to go after Spawn, Spawn had killed her off. Or we thought he did. We come to find out from Cagliostro, to kill off an angel, you have to absorb their light. If you don't, they'll have the ability to come right back to life again and cause more problems for you. But on top of that, you have Cagliostro telling Spawn, you have to make the right moves. And what he is saying is that you're playing in the devil's hand. Why are you doing that? Every move you make is helping the devil out or God out. Why not try to make your own moves to help yourself out? And then you have Cagliostro just disappear. But we kind of find out who was going around killing off all the people who were working for Vito. Well, it's an old character known as Tremor. And when it comes to Tremor, he was a monster as well, but he was trying to leave that life behind for his wife and kid. Unfortunately, he was working for Vito, and Vito did not like the idea of Tremor trying to leave. And so he basically killed off Tremor's wife and kid, but at the same time made Tremor go through one horrible scientific experiment that turned him into this creature right here. And ever since then, Vito has been technically targeted by Tremor. And this is Tremor saying, I am finally here to kill you off. I finally found your base. I am going to get revenge for what you did to me and my family. Now, here's the thing, because to Tremor, he believes that Vito killed off his entire family, not just his wife and kid, but like his brother as well. Well, you have Vito say, you cannot kill me, because if you do kill me, then your brother is going to die, which tells us that his brother is still alive, just somewhere out there in the world. And so Tremor says, okay, you know what? I am going to back off for now, because clearly you're holding my brother hostage as a way to control me. I need to think of a new game plan. And so Tremor leaves. And so you have Tremor go over to Spawn, or where Spawn is at. Because let's not forget, Spawn did promise Tremor that sooner or later they're going to work together to go after Vito and to bring him down. And so this is Tremor saying, hey, it's time for you to come help me take down Vito. Except at this point in time, Spawn is not really big in helping people. He's trying to handle his own problems at the moment. Either way, you then have Tremor say, you're going to help me. And the reason why? Because I heard Vito. He mentioned a bunch of names. Terry, Wanda. And those first two names are very important, because that means Vito knows all the loved ones of Spawn, which means that sooner or later Vito could go after them as well, as a way to get to Spawn. And this could make Spawn wanting to help Tremor take down Vito once and for all. But we get into Spawn number 47, and when we do, it's really more of Spawn telling Tremor that he doesn't feel like he should get involved in this mess at all. Like, he's really not down to help, even though Tremor said, hey, by the way, Vito is planning to go after people that are close to you. You should most likely want to get involved. And you have Spawn like, I don't know, bro. But then you have Tremor bring over another guy named Billy who works for Vito as well. And we kind of find out through Billy that Vito believed that Terry was Spawn. And matter of fact, we saw that all the way back into the earlier comics of Spawn, where Vito did believe that Terry was Spawn. And so apparently Vito had this guy Billy follow Terry around until he was able to prove that Spawn was Terry. Unfortunately, Billy couldn't do that. But for Vito, he still wanted Terry watched, because he's also looking into Jason Wynn as well. And so you have Billy say, yeah, so Jason Wynn, Wanda, Terry, all these different people who are close to you in some kind of way were being watched by Vito. And that right there tells Spawn, fine, okay, Tremor, I'll help you out dealing with this freaking Vito problem. Let's go ahead and go now. We then jump over to Jason Wynn and Violator. And when we do, this is where we get reminded that these two characters are working together. Now, when it comes to Jason Wynn, Jason is just more of a guy who was responsible for the death of Al Simmons, but he's being forced here to work with Violator. If he doesn't, well, of course, Violator will kill him off. So he has no choice here but to help the guy out. And when it comes to Violator, he is your demon, your regular demon from hell, who was created by Malbolgia, the devil of the 8th circle. But when it comes to Violator, he has been working with Jason Wynn as a way to go after the loved ones of Al Simmons. And the reason why, because Violator hates Spawn with the passion. And for the longest time, we had no idea why. Well, we kind of find out why. Because apparently, when it comes to Violator, he feels like humans who become Hellspawns should not have the right to become captains to lead the army of hell against the forces of heaven. Because there is going to be a big war down the road. And when that war comes, of course, you're going to have the Hellspawns being the one in charge of leading the army of hell against the forces of heaven. And that bothers Violator a lot. He feels like demons who are born in hell should be the ones to lead the army, not these Hellspawns who are humans who just died, went to hell, given a symbiote suit, and then put back on Earth to be trained to become a great captain. That right there to Violator is not okay. And so right now, him and Jason are still plotting to go after the loved ones of Al Simmons. But this is where we begin the process of wrapping up today's video, because we actually do pick up with Tremor and also Spawn paying a visit to Vito one last time. Well, hopefully one last time. We already know it's not going to be the last time. Either way, when they do get to his office, you have Tremor going first. And this is Tremor saying, I'm going to make sure I kill off Vito once and for all. Except Vito does have something over Tremor, his brother. Now let's not forget, Tremor believed that his brother was actually dead, to only find out that his brother is not dead, he is alive and well. And matter of fact, when it comes to his brother, he's working for Vito right now and trying to protect Vito from Tremor. It's brother versus brother. Now, when it comes to Tremor's brother, he believed that his own brother Tremor was dead, alongside his wife and kid. Only come to find out that is not true. That Tremor was alive, he was just put through one horrible scientific experiment. Either way, you have Spawn jump in, being able to take down both Vito and also take down Tremor's brother before his brother could kill off his own brother. Either way, once you have Spawn handle all three characters, you didn't have Spawn go over to Vito and say, you are going to leave all of us alone. Tremor, his brother, Wanda, Terry, everybody. And the reason why, because I have information about you. I can blackmail you. And tell you right now, if I give that information over to your boss back in Sicily, they're going to come over here and do some really bad things to you. So think it through. What's better, to just leave us alone or to die? And literally, the book ends on that note right there, with Spawn and Tremor's brother just leaving and saying, good, the day is saved and we can move on with our day. Okay, so we are going to continue our coverage over Spawn for Spawn Sundays, where we actually do pick up with Spawn number 48. Now, when it comes to Spawn number 48, we do pick up with Sam and Twitch. Now remember, Sam and Twitch used to be two police officers working for the NYPD. Unfortunately, they were fired because they were trying to bring down their boss, Sheriff Banks. Now, luckily, they were able to bring their boss down. Unfortunately, though, it only happened after they got fired. Now, when it came to their boss, they had learned that their boss, Banks, was working alongside Jason Wynn. They hired a child serial killer to go after somebody in politics. Either way, when it came to Banks, he was brought down. Matter of fact, he killed himself. Either way, after that is now our two characters, Sam and Twitch, trying to live a new life, becoming private investigators. And they were able to find an office. The problem is the office literally sucks. Yeah, it sucks. Either way, they're happy to be there together. But then out of nowhere, a random folder appears at their door. And when it comes to this folder, it does contain a lot of information. But that information is about different people who had worked alongside with Sheriff Banks. We then jump over to Rat Alley. Now remember, Rat Alley is an area in New York where a lot of homeless people live in. But on top of that, this is Spawn's territory. But we kind of find out that the people, the homeless people, are now becoming scared of Spawn and wondering if he's good enough to actually protect them, but at the same time wondering if he could possibly kill them. They're very concerned for their friend because he has changed a lot since the earlier parts of Spawn, but at the same time, the guy has gone through a lot in very recent issues. But either way, they have no choice but to wait and see what is going to happen with Spawn. We then jump over to Spawn, and we see Spawn trying to build a prison for himself, but also for the bad guys. And what I mean by that, in recent issues, Spawn had dealt with Curse. And when it came to Curse, Kurtz was trying to dissect Spawn to learn more about Spawn because Kurtz believed that he was working for God in some kind of crazy way. Either way, when it came to Kurtz, he did a number to Spawn, but also Spawn's suit. Because remember, Spawn's suit is basically a symbiote. And so it went through a whole lot of trauma. And now the suit is going crazy. It's also evolving as well, but at a faster rate than usual. Because most Hellspawns don't reach the point that Spawn has when it comes to his suit. And so right now, there is a battle for control. Spawn and his suit. But at the same time, he is trying to build a prison for himself because he has no idea if he'll become too dangerous for his friends in Rat Alley. Now that is the moment where he is confronted by Cagliostro. And when it comes to Cagliostro, we still have no idea what's the deal with this character. All we know is that he knows a lot about Spawn and other characters. But on top of that, he keeps telling Spawn, sooner or later, you are going to lose control if you don't act right and start making your own moves. Stop getting played by the devil and God and begin to make your own moves for your betterment of your own life. And so you have Spawn just flip out because just like us, we have no idea what's the deal with Cagliostro. And he says, tell me everything or get lost. And it's kind of like, you know what? I'm gonna step back and hold my tongue for the time being. But yeah, you need to get control of your suit. But we then check in with Wanda. Now remember, Wanda is the ex-wife of Al Simmons. After he had died, 5 years later, we come to find out she got remarried to Terry, Al's best friend, and also had a child with Terry. Either way, when it comes to Wanda, by this point in the storyline, she's about to open up a brand new building because thankfully somebody gave her a huge donation. And so with a donation, she's able to open up her brand new building. Unfortunately, she has to go through so much paperwork, and she has no idea how her husband, Terry, does it when it comes to a huge amount of paperwork. And speaking of Jason Wynn, when we actually pick up with Jason, it's him right now still working in his office, still trying to gather a bunch of information about the different things going on with Jason Wynn, because he knows that Jason done a lot of dirty things and somebody has to bring him down. Now, what he does not know is that Jason is also partially responsible for the death of his best friend, Al Simmons. Either way, we also have to remember that Terry is sick. Now, we have no idea what's wrong with Terry, but every single time we see him, he's coughing, having a hard time breathing, and he is exhausted. But again, we have no idea what's wrong with him. And so we jump over to Sam and Twitch. And when we do, it's Sam and Twitch coming back to their office because they did some detective work to look over all the different information that was kept in that folder. And with them doing that, they realized that there was a whole bunch of old information they already knew about. But at the same time, there was new information as well. And with the new information, they realized that it has to be a reliable source because they also have old information that they already knew about. And some of the new they checked in on is also accurate, which means the rest must be accurate as well. But the question is, who gave them this file and what do they want them to do with this file? But getting back over to Spawn, we see Spawn meeting up with Bobby. And Bobby is one of the many homeless people in Rat Alley. But Bobby was the guy who was actually killed off and brought back to life thanks to one of those crazy adventures being with Spawn. Either way, Spawn trusts Bobby a lot, but this is Spawn telling Bobby he has to go. Not Bobby, Spawn, because Spawn is very scared of the idea that the suit is going to take over his body. If that happens, he has no idea what the suit could possibly do, which means that it could possibly kill off Bobby and the rest of the homeless people. But at the same time, Spawn's saying, a lot of different people came here looking for me, and I want to make sure that you guys are not in grave danger. And I'm tired of putting you guys in grave danger. And so I'm going to step away to protect you, but to also protect myself. And we already know he built that prison as a way to lock himself up. But to close off on Spawn number 48, we jump over to Jason Wynn. And when we do, it's Jason Wynn getting a call. And apparently, whoever is working with Jason Wynn on this phone call is getting ready to go after two different targets. And the question is right now, who are the two targets they're going after? And do those two people have a connection to Spawn? But we also get reminded that Jason Wynn is not working alone, that he's also working alongside with Violator. And now their plans are coming together. But then we have to jump into Spawn number 49. Now, when we do jump into Spawn number 49, we pick up a Spawn paying a visit to Wanda's grandmother. Now remember, Wanda's grandmother really did love Spawn a lot when he was alive and just being Al Simmons. Now after he died, she grieved a whole lot because she loved the man that was being there for her granddaughter. But either way, when Al came back to life, he would constantly pay visits to her to just see her, but to also listen to the words she had to say because she always gave him great advice. With that being said, it's Spawn telling her that he'll be gone for a while. And this is him once again trying to protect the people he cares so much for. Because again, he is so scared of the idea that the symbiote suit might take over his body and could possibly come back to the people that he cares so much for. We then jump over to Terry, and this is where we see Terry going to the doctor to get checked out to figure out what in the world is wrong with him. Why has he been sick so much lately? Except when he does go to the doctor tells him, dude, I have no idea what's wrong with you. I ran all the tests I can, but unfortunately, I can't tell you what's literally wrong with you. What I can tell you to do now is to go see another doctor that is a friend of mine, and hopefully he can run some more tests on you to hopefully figure out what in the world is wrong with you. Because right now you seem okay, your body seems okay, except when Terry leaves, Terry coughs once again. We then jump over to Spawn, and remember, he just left the home of Wanda's grandmother. Now, we already know where he was going to next. He was going to, of course, his new prison that he had built himself as a way to protect himself or to protect the ones that he loves. Except we kind of find out that prison did not work. But on top of that, something else has happened to Spawn. And the reason why I'm saying that because you have Cagliostro just stopping by to see how Spawn is doing. Except when he does find Spawn, he realized something very horrible has happened to Spawn. And he is now literally freaking out. We then jump over to Violator. Now remember, when it comes to Violator, the reason why he hates Spawn so much because Spawn is a Hellspawn for one, but on top of that, he feels like Hellspawns should not be leaders of the army of Hell. And the reason why, because he feels like because Hellspawns are technically just human souls who were given a new chance for a new thing to do in hell, he feels like true demons should be the one to actually lead the forces of hell against the forces of heaven. Now, once he hears the idea that Spawn's suit is actually killing Spawn, he's very happy about the idea because now it seems like Spawn is a failure. And once he does go back to hell as a failure, then maybe, just maybe, Malbolgia could technically be like, you know what, maybe Violator was right. Hellspawns cannot lead my army. So it'll be Violator and his brothers who will lead my army instead. And so we then jump over to Cagliostro. When we do, it's Cagliostro just freaking out. And the reason why, because we kind of find out the prison that Spawn made, one, did not work. But two, the suit is literally trying to kill off Al Simmons to get rid of him. And so with that happening, it's called kind of like, okay, this is bad. The suit is going to literally kill him and send him back to hell. And so you have Cog being able to help Spawn calm down, get Spawn out of his suit, but at the same time escape the makeshift prison that Spawn made. Now, this is actually a very huge moment. And the reason why, because this is where we kind of find out Cagliostro used to be a Hellspawn. That is huge because now we know how in the world this man knows everything about God, hell, Hellspawns, and everything else because he used to be one. And then you have Al Simmons say, Cagliostro, please help me. We then jump over to Terry, and when we do, we see Terry going to see another doctor. Now, when it comes to Terry, he is going to find out there is something else wrong with him. Unfortunately, though, I want to focus on Wanda real quick. And the reason why, because Terry has not told his wife how bad his sickness has gotten. She has no idea this man is going to see different doctors left and right. She has no idea that her husband is basically lying to her. And so when she calls his office, matter of fact, he told his assistant, if my wife calls, make sure you tell her I'm in a meeting, because he does not want to scare her at all. But this is the big moment, because you didn't have the doctor come to Terry say, I found out what's wrong with you. And I'm going to find out you have a tumor in your brain. And that is very huge to say right there. But then we kind of find out things are about to get a whole lot worse. And the reason why, because we kind of find out Cygor has arrived into New York City. Now remember, when it comes to Cygor, Cygor is a cybernetic gorilla that was made for the military. Except when it came to the military, they were hoping the brain of this cybernetic gorilla would be 80-20, 80% human brain and the 20 being a gorilla brain. Unfortunately, they got 50-50. And so right now, you have a very angry gorilla looking for one particular person. And apparently that person is Al Simmons. And we have no idea why Cygor is looking for Al Simmons, but we're going to find out in later videos. But to close on today's video, we jump back over to Terry. Now, let's not forget, Terry just found out this man has a tumor in his brain. And so he is freaking out and wondering how in the world can he tell his wife and his daughter that he has cancer? How in the world can he do that? But either way, on his way home, that is when he once again passes out. And when he does pass out again, this time he's behind the wheel of a car. And he then crashes into a truck. And we're left to believe that something seriously bad has happened to him. Because that is the moment you have Wanda get a call. And when she does get that call, it's someone telling her something seriously bad has happened to your husband. And unfortunately, we don't feel like he might not make it. Okay, so we are going to continue our coverage over Spawn for Spawn Sundays, and we pick up with Spawn number 50. Now, when it comes to Spawn number 50, it does pick up where our last video left off at, with Terry getting into a car accident. Now remember, Terry is the old best friend of Spawn, but the current husband to Wanda, Spawn's ex-wife. Anyways though, when it came to Terry, he got into a car accident. And it was really bad. And Wanda got a call saying your husband is in the hospital. And so she ran over to see if everything is okay. Now, once she does arrive, it seems like he is okay. Just some minor injuries. Except when it comes to the doctor, he wants to run a few tests. Now, this is going to be a problem. And the reason why? Because Terry has not told Wanda that he has a tumor on his brain. And so with these tests, the doctor here is going to find out about the tumor and of course is going to tell both Terry and also Wanda, even though Terry already knows. And Terry is trying his best to not have the doctor run these tests because he does not want Wanda to know just yet. And so unfortunately, the doctor's all like, nah, bro, I got to run these tests to make sure you have no other kinds of injuries. We then jump over to Spawn and Cagliostro. Now, when it comes to Spawn and Cagliostro, let's not forget, in our last video, Cagliostro told Spawn that he used to be a Spawn as well. Now, he did not say a Hell Spawn, all he said was a Spawn. And we're left to wonder what he meant by that. With that being said though, we do see Spawn right now trying to figure out what in the world is going on with him, but also Cagliostro. Now, when it comes to Cagliostro, he does not tell Spawn any more information about his past or being a Spawn in the past. Instead, what he does tell Spawn one thing, that when it came to Spawn's suit, the reason why it's going crazy and Spawn is having a hard time controlling it is because when they were separated thanks to Curse, the suit was evolving. Now, with the suit evolving, it needed Al Simmons with it to basically lead it in the right direction to learn from right and wrong. The problem was Spawn was not there because Curse was trying to dissect Spawn. He took the suit away from Spawn. And so that led the suit becoming more violent because it did not have Al Simmons inside of it to basically teach it the right things. But on top of that, once Spawn and the suit did combine together once again, all of Spawn's anger and hatred towards different things just kept feeding the suit bad information. Feeding it and basically saying, okay, I should be mad and angry all the time. And that was the problem right there, why the suit went crazy so much. And so it's Astro saying, if you want to regain control of your suit, you need to teach your suit the right thing. But for you to do that, you have to let go of all your anger, all your hatred, because after you do that right there, then your suit will be able to actually listen to you and work with you. Now, after saying that, Astro just disappears just like that. But we get back over to Wanda and Terry. Now, when it comes to Wanda and Terry, they're in the hospital. They're just waiting for the test, thinking that everything is going to be a-okay, except that is the moment you have the doctor come in and technically says, hey Terry, you have cancer. You have a tumor on your brain. Now, Terry already knew that. He learned that in the last video, but Wanda did not know that. And this is so hard for Wanda. And the reason why, because let's not forget, Terry is her second husband. Al Simmons, Spawn, was her first. He was shot down and killed. And now here comes her second husband dying from cancer. It's so hard for her to hear the idea that her husband now has cancer. But on top of that, when it comes to the tumor, unfortunately, the doctors cannot do anything at all unless they're trying to cut into the brain actually, or cut off part of the brain. But the thing is, the way this cancer had worked, it was always in Terry's body, but it was slowly growing to the point where it's now a tumor. But even if they do cut off the tumor, it is going to regrow again. And so technically, Terry is a dead man. Except this is where we begin the process of seeing Spawn being able to save Terry, but then getting sent back to hell for doing it. Let me explain. Because you now have Spawn going over to Wanda's grandmother. And the reason why, because Spawn and the grandmother always had a close bond. Before he died, before they got married, he always had a close bond to the grandmother of Wanda. It was so sweet and everything. Except when he does go over to her, he's kind of like, hey, you know, I'm here making sure you're okay. Now she's blind, so she has no idea how Spawn looks like. But on top of that, she believed that Spawn is an angel, not a hell Spawn, because things he told her. Either way, this is where she tells Spawn, yeah, you know, I'm doing great, but Wanda, nah, she's doing bad, Al. She's doing bad because she just found out Terry has cancer. Now that hits Spawn hard, very hard. Now, Spawn is still angry at Terry for a whole lot of different reasons, but he's now sad for Wanda because he still loves her. He still wants to protect her. He still wants to make sure that she is happy. And now he hears that her second husband is going to die from cancer. And so you have Spawn go over to the hospital to confirm that Terry does have cancer. And when he does see Terry, he's all like, man, he does have cancer. Man, he is dying. But like, can I save him? And technically, Spawn can use his hell power to actually save Terry's life. But the thing is, if he does that, that means he has used all the energy that Malbolgia gave him. And the problem is, if he does use all the energy he has, he gets sent right back to hell to begin the process of leading the army of hell against the forces of heaven. And he's not trying to do that right now. But he realized that Terry is dying and maybe he should do it. Except for Spawn, he's still angry at Terry because Terry married his wife. He married Wanda, who was the ex-wife of Al Simmons. But on top of that, Terry is working for Jason Wynn. And Jason is one of the many guys responsible for the death of Spawn. And so Spawn's saying, why should I help him? And he leaves. But the thing is, right after he leaves, Terry gets a whole lot worse. I mean, a whole lot worse. Because right after he leaves, Wanda is freaking out. She overhears that Terry has lost the ability to breathe on his own. And so without that ability, he's now on a breathing machine. He is trying to survive. And Wanda cannot deal with the idea of watching her second husband dying right in front of her. But again, Spawn is right outside. He sees Wanda crying. He sees Wanda scared of the idea of losing her second husband, but now her daughter gonna lose her father. And so it's Spawn saying, I made a promise to always keep Wanda happy, to always make sure that she is okay. And so Spawn is going to use his powers to basically save the life of Terry, not because he feels bad for Terry, because he wants to make sure that Wanda is okay and their daughter as well. And this is a very big moment because you do have Spawn going right back into the hospital room. And when he does, he goes right next to Terry. He used all the power he has left that was given to him by Malbolgia to bring Terry back to life, but to also make sure the cancer is gone. And so when he does that, yeah, all the energy he had is completely gone. He has no choice but to go back to hell. But at least when he does do it, he did it for Wanda. He made sure that Wanda is happy. And then Terry wakes up. The cancer is gone, completely gone. There is no way the cancer can regrow again to hurt Terry down the road. The doctors cannot believe it. Wanda could not believe it, to the point where homegirl fainted as soon as she saw Terry get right back up. She's like, what just happened? And so it's a great thing. But unfortunately, Spawn had to go back to hell because, again, he used all the energy that Malbolgia gave him, and now he's back in hell. And so then we jump into the idea of learning more about heaven and hell, trying to figure out, how does a soul go to one of the two? How is it decided? And so we come to find out, when it comes to heaven or hell, it's basically a chess game. And what I mean by that, you have heaven or hell try to decide when a soul is best for them or best for their opponent. And so sometimes they'll try to grab a soul to help build up their forces to fight against an enemy. But sometimes they might let a soul go to the other side as a way to hurt their forces. So for example, if heaven sees a soul that will be better for hell, they'll let that soul go over to hell. Hopefully, one, that'll be a weak soul that could bring down the forces of hell so that they'll be able to win their big war down the road. And vice versa when it comes to hell trying to bring down heaven. But sometimes you'll have heaven just go ahead and grab a soul because they feel like that soul will be better in heaven, not in hell. And again, vice versa for hell as well. With that being said, when it comes to hell, when it came to Al Simmons, well, he was the perfect fit for hell. And the reason why, because usually when hell decides a soul would be better in hell, is for two reasons: revenge and love. And when it came to Al Simmons, he wanted revenge. And that was the perfect kind of soul to be grabbed by hell to be used in the forces of hell to fight against the forces of heaven. Now, this is where we jump over to Violator, who's still on Earth. And the thing is, when it came to Violator, he hated Spawn so much. And the reason why, because he hates the idea of human souls going to hell, becoming hell spawns, then sent back to Earth to be trained to hopefully one day lead the forces of hell. Because to Violator, the only people who should be leading the army of hell should be the ones who actually come from hell, the demons there, like Violator. And so when he hears that Spawn went back to hell, he's all like, yes, I won, it's great. But then he realized, wait a second, because Spawn just proved that maybe he is the best fit to lead the army of hell against the forces of heaven. And that ticks off Violator a whole lot more now. He said, I technically did not get what I wanted to do. I wanted to prove to Malbolgia that demons are better than humans. And here I am right now, technically showing that humans are better than demons. But then we jump back over to Terry, and Terry and Wanda are so excited because now they can go home. Terry no longer has cancer. Everything is going to be a-okay. Well, you would think that, right? And so either way, Terry is happy, so is Wanda, so is their daughter. And you even have the doctor say they have no idea how in the world this man was able to beat cancer. But on top of that, the cancer had disappeared completely. But either way, homeboy can go ahead and go home. And so they do. Now, when they get home, they do have a celebration. It's great, except when Terry and Wanda go to bed, Terry has a dream. And the dream is the same thing over and over again. It's some kind of dream about Al Simmons, his best friend, Spawn. And this could mean that Terry is going to begin the process of learning that Spawn is Al Simmons, his friend that died 5 years ago, who came back and was trying his best to protect Terry, but to also protect Wanda. Well, you then have Terry go over to the grandmother of Wanda. And this is where you have Terry wonder even more about Al Simmons possibly being alive again, or was, because right now he's back in hell. Either way, you have the grandmother of Wanda tell Terry, well, yeah, you should be okay because I sent you an angel. And you had Terry wondering, what in the world do you mean by that? How in the world did you send me an angel? And she says, Al Simmons. He was alive again. I just never told you guys. He never told you guys, but he was alive again. And matter of fact, when I told him you had cancer, I said, man, please do your thing, be an angel, and go over there and help your friend Terry out. And Al did. Al did help out Terry. And so Terry's kind of like, wait, was Al alive? Is Al Spawn? What in the world is going on here? But then we see Spawn arrive in hell. Now, when he does arrive on the second level of hell, the second circle, because let's not forget, there are multiple levels when it comes to hell. And when it comes to Malbolgia, the one that made Al Simmons into Spawn, well, he's on the 8th circle, the 8th level. Either way, there are so many different kind of rules when it comes to hell. But one thing we do know for sure, necroplasm is very important in hell, because when it comes to Malbolgia, he does use necroplasm as a way to make the humans who have came to hell into hell spawns and then send them back to Earth. Here's the thing, when it comes to other levels, necroplasm used in different ways. On the second level, it's kind of like an energy source that the demons here want to eat and feed on. And when it comes to Spawn, Spawn does contain some necroplasm, but at the same time, he's on their turf. He should not be on the second level. He should be on the 8th level. And so it does lead into Spawn fighting against a bunch of creatures from the second level. Now, as the fight goes on, Spawn is able to defend himself, but at first, homeboy was getting his butt whooped. But after being able to get back on his feet, it seems like he was able to unlock new powers, and he was able to take down all the different demons that were coming at him left and right. And once he does it, he's all like, yes, listen here, I am not going to be a pushover. I'm going to make sure that if anybody attacks me, I'll be able to stop them. And when it came to the big demon in this fight right here, he killed off that demon and made that demon eat its own heart. It's Spawn saying, yeah, I may be in hell, but I'm not no pushover. And the last page of Spawn number 50 is really important. And the reason why, because we pick up with two things happening on the last page. The first is that you have Malbolgia celebrating the idea that Spawn is back in hell. It's a great thing. Oh my gosh. He also got brand new powers, which means that a whole lot more mess is about to come to Spawn very soon with now him being in hell. But then on the same page, we come to find out the daughter of Wanda and Terry went to a birthday party. Now, when it came to the birthday party, there was a clown, and that clown is a very sick clown, and that clown would be Violator. And so we do see Violator still trying to come after the loved ones of Spawn as a way to get to Spawn. But the question is, if Spawn is in hell, what's the point of going after the different people who are close to Spawn? Because what will you gain from that? And so with that being said, this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, I'll see y'all next time. Later.